Kaj pa ne slišim?
Čakali zamudnike, nekaj jih je sicer napovedalo, da se bodo pridružili kasneje. Z uradnim uvodom bomo sicer začeli ob 10, predtem pa vam bom še povedala nekaj navodil glede uporabe Zooma in kako in kaj. Tako, mislim, da nas je večina že prijavljenih, torej dobrodošli še enkrat in hvala v imenu organizatorjev, ker ste se nam danes pridružili na spletni delavnici Razvoj sistema zelene logistike, ki pa, kot vidite, poteka preko orodja Zoom, ki pa verjamem, da ga mnogi že dobro poznate. Danes bomo torej izvedeli veliko o zelenem, kljub temu, da se oglašamo iz vijoličnega Maribora. Sem Tatjana Milovanovič in bom povezovala dogodek ter skrbela za to, da boste dobili odgovore na vaše vprašanja. Za voljo ukrepov smo delavnico pričeli z maskami, oziroma sem jo pričela z masko, da me boste bolje slišali, bom jo mogoče kar odstranila. Torej, kot kaže, ste se vsi brez večjih težav prijavili, torej me veseli. Morda ste nekateri že opazili, vaši mikrofoni so zdaj ugasnjeni, to je zato, da lahko to, kar bodo današnji predavatelji povedali, vsi sodelujoči jasno slišimo, tako da jih zaenkrat lepo prosim, kar pustite na tiho, no razen v zadnjem delu, ko boste imeli priložnost, da danes povedano predebatirate, takrat boste mikrofone vklopili s klikom na ikono levo spodaj, oziroma zgoraj vidite mute, unmute. Kamere po lastni izbiri, predlagam sicer, da jo vklopite, ker bo tudi bolj interaktivno, pa lepše je, če se vidimo, vklopite jo s klikom na ikono kamere, levo spodaj. Naše bodo prižgane, tako da naj na tej točki še spomnim, da bo kakovost slike in zvoka boljša, če ste povezani preko kabla in ne brezžično. Če je torej mogoče, vam toplo priporočam, da ste povezani preko kabla. Tu sta tudi Anja in Avstriji, naša tehnična podpora z zavoda Vozim, ki bosta skrbela za to, da bo vse tako, kot je treba. Če pa bi se kljub temu kaj zalomilo in bi pri katerem od predavateljev ostali brez signala, smo za varovalo posneli tudi video vseh predavanj, tako da kar brez skrbi, v tem primeru bom skočila jaz in bomo kar se da hitro potem nadaljevali. Najpomembnejše v webinarju je seveda razprava. Če vam med predavanji, če se vam porodi kakšno vprašanje, tega lepo prosim, kar zapišite v chat oziroma klepet. Po prvih 2 predavanjih, ki bodo v slovenščini, zapisanih vprašanj sicer ne bomo postavljali, ker imamo za to predviden čas kasneje, natančneje ob 12:30, ko ste tudi vljudno vabljeni v prej omenjeno diskusijo. Vprašanja, ki pa bodo namenjena našim tujim predavateljem, bomo zastavili po vsakem od njihovih predavanj. Lahko jih zapišete v slovenščini ali angleščini, kakor vam je ljubše. Tudi v primeru izpada signala lahko vprašanje govorcem kljub temu postavite. Če se zgodi to, bomo tako vprašanja kot odgovore nanje zbrali v skupen dokument, ki pa vam ga bomo poslali v najkrajšem možnem času po zaključku delavnice. In pa, če že govorimo o današnjih govorcih, naj jih na hitro predstavim. Najprej nas bo pozdravila gospa Andreja Kuzmanič, ki je zaposlena v podjetju Zoom d.o.o. v Mariboru, kjer je odgovorna za področje urbanističnega in prostorskega načrtovanja ter sodeluje pri pripravi različnih urbanističnih strokovnih podlag, med drugim tudi na temo trajnostne mobilnosti. Predstavila bo vsebino ter izvedene in predvidene aktivnosti akcije Zelena logistika v okviru projekta Life Care for Climate, del katerega pa je tudi današnja delavnica. Gospa Mateja Kukovec je naša naslednja govorka, prav tako dela na podjetju Zoom, kjer je odgovorna za prometno planiranje v okviru priprave prostorskih aktov in izvajanja projektov z področja trajnostne mobilnosti. Danes bo nekaj besed namenila razvoju zelene logistike pri nas oziroma v Sloveniji. Za njo bodo spregovorili še gostje iz sosednje Avstrije v okviru 3 predavanj. V prvem bo Lisa Anderluh z Ministrstva za podnebne ukrepe, okolje, energijo, mobilnost, inovacije in tehnologijo govorila o kombiniranem prevozu kot okolju prijazni rešitvi za prevoz tovora. Kot omenjeno, boste tu imeli priložnost postaviti vprašanja gospe Anderluh, v kolikor bodo v slovenščini, jih bom za vas prevedla. Potem Sara Bitner-Kraucak z Ministrstva za podnebne ukrepe, okolje, energijo, mobilnost, inovacije in tehnologijo in pa Martin Posset z Thinkport Vienna Smart Urban Logistics Lab se bosta osredotočila na raziskave, tehnologijo in inovacije s posebnim poudarkom na mobilnosti blaga, čemur pa bodo sledila vprašanja, tako kot pri prejšnjem predavanju. Zaključno besedo bomo dali gospe Kukovec. Temu bo okoli poldneva sledil polurni odmor, potem pa bomo delavnico pripeljali do konca z diskusijo, ki bo kot omenjeno potekala z vklopljenimi mikrofoni. V tem prvem delu pa bo lažje, če uporabite klepet. Na pomembna obvestila vas bomo opozorila, navodila in povezave bomo zapisali tudi v klepet. Če imate kakšno vprašanje, ga prosim zapišite in nekdo izmed nas bo nanj odgovoril. Zdaj pa predajam besedo Andreji, ki pa se oglaša s sosednjega računalnika.
Najprej vas lepo pozdravljam. Spodaj imam zapisano sicer ime Mateja Kukovec, ker imamo zaradi tehnične organizacije, si malo delimo računalnik. Naj vas to ne zmoti. Tale integralni projekt Care for Climate je 8-letni celostni projekt, ki se je pričel lani in ki z ozaveščanjem, izobraževanjem in usposabljanjem ključnih deležnikov spodbuja izvajanje ukrepov za učinkovito zmanjšanje emisij toplogrednih plinov do leta 2030 oziroma hitrejši prehod v nizkoogljično družbo. Projekt je sofinanciran s sredstvi Evropskega programa LIFE, sredstvi Sklada za podnebne spremembe in pa sredstvi partnerjev projekta. Cilji projekta so podpiranje hitrejšega in stroškovno učinkovitejšega izvajanja ukrepov zmanjšanja emisij toplogrednih plinov, potem krepitev zmogljivosti in strokovnih kompetenc ključnih deležnikov, vzpostavitev učinkovitega sistema spremljanja izvajanja ukrepov in pa medsektorsko zmanjšanje emisij toplogrednih plinov. Zoom je partner, ki v projektu sodeluje z vodenjem aktivnosti povezanih z razvojem zelene logistike na nacionalnem in pa na lokalnem nivoju. V integralnem projektu LIFE je področje zelene logistike sicer del sklopa C3 trajnostna mobilnost. Vlade držav po svetu sprejemajo okoljsko regulacijo, med drugim predpise, ki zagotavljajo spreminjanje poslovnih praks podjetij v ekološko vzdržne. Eden večjih izzivov, s katerimi se soočajo podjetja pri zagotavljanju okoljsko vzdržnega poslovnega modela, pa je organizacija in način delovanja njihovih dobaviteljev. Zato vse večji pomen pridobiva tudi razvoj zelene logistike. Slovenija še nima pripravljenih strateških dokumentov za vsebine zelene logistike, izjema je tema upravljanja mestne logistike, za katero pa na Ministrstvu za infrastrukturo že pripravljajo smernice za izdelavo strategij upravljanja mestne logistike. Skratka, zaradi rasta volumna paketov in pošiljk in sploh tovora v svetu, tukaj je na slajdu prikazano do leta 2015, trend pa se še poveča, se stremi k temu, da se kompletna logistika usmerja v isto smer z istimi cilji, z čim manjšimi vplivi na okolje in da se za mesta uredi trajnostna logistika, ki bo imela čim manjši vpliv na življenje prebivalcev in omogočala čim boljšo kvaliteto življenja. Skladno s projektno nalogo smo zato teme logistike razdelili v 4 sklope, in sicer potrošnjo in produkcijo. Ta sklop se nanaša na zmanjšanje potrebnega obsega logističnih storitev, na zmanjšanje potreb po virih in pa na skrajševanje prepotovanih razdalj ter na specialne logistične storitve z naraščajočim trendom in specifičnimi zahtevami, kot so na primer logistika za starejše. Drugi sklop je organizacija prostora, ki se nanaša na ukrepe, ki jih je možno izvajati z urbanističnim načrtovanjem, in sicer opredelitev namenske rabe, potem prostorski izvedbeni pogoji in pa drugi prostorski ukrepi v mestih in na posamezni vrsti infrastrukture, kot na primer vključevanje v prostorske načrte zaradi optimiranja porabe prostora in delovanja sistemov, pa omrežje pick-up točk. Tretji sklop je upravljanje z zalogami in pa distribucija. Oboje se nanaša na ukrepe znotraj logističnega sektorja, ki omogočajo organizacijo ekonomsko učinkovitega in pa okoljsko sprejemljivega sistema. In četrti sklop je tehnologija in oprema, ki se nanaša na razvoj novih tehnologij in opreme, vključevanje le-teh v logistični sektor in pa urbanistično planiranje, uporabo čistih vozil in inteligentnih transportnih sistemov v vsakdanjem življenju in olajšanje logističnih operacij z avtomatizacijo in optimizacijo transportnih in logističnih poti ob zmanjšanju škodljivih vplivov na okolje in pa izboljšanju bivalnih pogojev. Iz pregledanega gradiva izhaja splošno prepričanje, da je tovorni promet socialno, ekonomsko in pa okoljsko neučinkovit, da ima vplive na javno zdravje, na prometno varnost, hrup, vibracije, smrad, vizualno obremenitev, da je neučinkovit zaradi regulacije obstoječe prometnih zastojev, poslabšanja dostopnosti v mestu in da ima pač velike emisije CO2 in pa prašnih delcev. Analiza kompleksnega urbanega transportnega sistema že predstavlja velik izziv za sodobno organizacijo urbane mobilnosti, s katerim se ukvarjajo številne znanstvene in strokovne, pa tudi nevladne organizacije ter forumi. Projektne aktivnosti, ki smo jih do sedaj izvedli, so pregledi razpoložljivega gradiva po teh 4 sklopih in pa analiza sistema zelene logistike v Sloveniji. Izvajamo pa tudi analizo sistemov zelene logistike v Združenem kraljestvu, na Nizozemskem in pa v Avstriji. Analizo primerov dobrih praks v posebnih območjih in trenutno smo v razgovorih s potencialnimi partnerji za oblikovanje in izvedbo pilotnih projektov. V letošnjem letu načrtujemo še izvedbo delavnice za predstavnike lokalnih skupnosti in upravljavce posebnih območij ter opredelitev 2 pilotnih projektov, ki se bosta izvajala do konca projekta v letu 2026. Izdelani bodo predlogi za vključevanje vsebin zelene logistike v zakonodajo in predpise lokalnih skupnosti ter izvedene promocijske aktivnosti in predstavitve rezultatov. Najlepša hvala.
Hvala, Andreja. No, pa smo tudi uradno pričeli z delavnico. Malce pred 10 smo sicer začeli. Vidim, da nas je zdaj že 18. Dobrodošli torej še enkrat na spletni delavnici Razvoj sistema zelene logistike. Za vse sodelujoče pa bi imela eno prošnjo. Za namene projekta bi vas lepo prosila, da na hitro prižgemo kamere, da lahko naredimo en posnetek sodelujočih. Se že priklafljate? Super. Hvala. Še nekaj, jih bomo malo počakali. Lepo vas je videti vse. No, malo še počakamo, še nekateri, da prižgejo, pa da mi tehnična podpora javi, da smo uredili posnetke. Štima, super, najlepša hvala. Zdaj lahko jo pustite prižgano, lepše je, če se vidimo. No, zdaj, ko smo v bistvu seznanjeni s projektom Life Care for Climate, pa besedo predajam gospe Mateji, ki pa bo povedala malce več o trenutnem stanju v Sloveniji.
Tako, sem se tudi zvočno vklopila. Pozdravljeni vsi prisotni, moja predstavitev bo obsegala prelet skozi strateške dokumente in pravne akte, ki obravnavajo področje zelene logistike v Sloveniji, pregled rezultatov študij, ki so bile izdelane na nivoju države, ter analiz podatkov s prevoza tovora v Sloveniji. Na koncu bi podala zaključke tega preleta, bomo pa v diskusiji potem po odmoru debatirali o sistemu zelene logistike v Sloveniji, kakšne ukrepi se predvidevajo za izdelavo, kje so zadnje ovire, zakaj se ne izvajajo kakšni ambicioznejši projekti, ker so prisotni tudi predstavniki ministrstva oziroma ministrstev, upamo, da bomo dobili tudi podrobnejše informacije s tem v zvezi. Zdaj, dokumenti v Sloveniji sprejeti dokumenti temeljijo na prometni politiki Evropske unije oziroma beli knjigi o evropski prometni politiki. Področje zelene logistike je v Sloveniji obravnavano v različnih strategijah. Govorimo o splošnih strategijah, medsektorskih in sektorskih strategijah ter v operativnih programih. Urejajo se pa z različnimi resornimi pravnimi akti, ki posredno ali neposredno zadevajo področje zelene logistike. Področje zelene logistike se seveda odraža v različnih področjih, kot so prometna infrastruktura, promet, varstvo okolja, javno naročanje, urbanistično načrtovanje, sama logistika oziroma upravljanje logistike, javno-zasebno partnerstvo, spodbujanje investicij, spodbujanje raziskav in razvoja, poštne storitve in podobno. V Sloveniji je v splošnem za področje zelene logistike odgovorno Ministrstvo za infrastrukturo in z resornimi akti oziroma strategijami varstva okolja seveda tudi Ministrstvo za okolje in prostor. V splošnem najdemo logistiko, kot sem rekla, v različnih strategijah, tako strategija razvoja Slovenije leta 2030, ki predstavlja krovni razvojni okvir Slovenije, podaja 5 strateških usmeritev in 12 razvojnih ciljev. Eden izmed razvojnih ciljev je tudi nizkoogljično krožno gospodarstvo. V bistvu zapiranje snovnih zank je povezano z ustrezno logistiko vračanja surovin, pri čemer ima seveda pomembno vlogo tudi prometna infrastruktura. Strategija prostorskega razvoja, ki je bila sprejeta leta 2004, lahko bi rekli, da je že zastarela, je državni akt o usmerjanju razvoja v prostoru, podaja prioritete in usmeritve prostorskega razvoja. Zdaj, kar se tiče področja logistike, je v tej strategiji so podane usmeritve za načrtovanje prometnih terminalov na različnih ravneh, tako mednarodnih, regionalnih, kot tudi distribucijskih. Strategija razvoja prometa do leta 2030 je ena pomembnejših strategij na področju prometa in seveda tudi posredno na področju upravljanja logistike. Gre za prvi dokument, ki v Sloveniji, ki res celovito obravnava prometni sistem. Predvideni so številni ukrepi, tako infrastrukturni, organizacijski, potem tudi s področja vodenja prometa, prometne varnosti, voznega parka in podobno. Povzema se vse evropsko prometno omrežje in se podajo usmeritve za zagotovitev tega standarda omrežja za TEN-T. Pri viziji razvoja prometa pa je opredeljeno posebno področje trajnostna transportna logistika. Je pa področje zelene logistike opredeljeno tudi v več ukrepih, predvsem v smislu vzpostavitve logističnih središč, ukrepih vezano na tovorne terminale. Velik del ukrepov se nanaša na posodobitev delovanja železniškega omrežja za dograditev infrastrukture in potem zmanjševanje emisij onesnaževal, področje upravljanja logistike, vzpostavitev celinskih plovnih poti in podobno. Operativni načrt za izvajanje te strategije pa je bil sprejet z resolucijo. Slovenija ima tudi raziskovalno in inovacijsko strategijo, kjer gre za cilj izboljšanja življenjskega standarda za vse in dvig kakovosti življenja. Ukrepi in kazalniki so pa vsi takšni, ki se nanašajo na raziskave in na razvoj in posredno seveda lahko tudi na področje logistike, kot boste videli potem v predstavitvi predstavnic iz ministrstva iz Avstrije oziroma z Dunaja. Celoviti energetski in podnebni načrt, ki je bil sprejet letošnjega leta, je eden oziroma je v bistvu najpomembnejši strateški dokument tudi za področje zelene logistike. Drugega, ki bi sistemsko urejal področje zelene logistike v Sloveniji, pač ni. Ključni cilji so tega energetskega in podnebnega načrta so zmanjšanje emisij toplogrednih plinov, povečanje deleža obnovljivih virov energije, več vlaganj v človeške vire in nova znanja, Za področje zelene logistike je relevantna predvsem razsežnost razogljičenja in področje prometa, ki obsega tako obstoječe instrumente, ki so že nekje načrtovani ali pa se izvajajo, kot tudi dodatne ukrepe trajnostne prometne politike, kot so izboljšanje železniške infrastrukture, vključevanje zunanjih stroškov v cestnine, torej onesnaževalec plača, in vključevanje drugih dajatev za tovorni promet, potem izboljšanje učinkovitosti cestnega tovornega prometa, spodbujanje učinkovitosti vozil in rabe goriv z nizkimi emisijami, informiranje o vrednotenju vplivov vozil ter obvezni delež obnovljivih virov energije v motornem prometu. Za zeleno logistiko so pomeni pač tudi seveda drugi ukrepi in politike, ki posledično zmanjšujejo potrebo po prevozu tovora, vse, kar je recimo povezano z področjem hrane, prevažanja paketov, odvoza odpadkov in podobno. Poleg teh pomembnejših strategij so za logistiko relevantne tudi strategije na področju razvoja trga za vzpostavitev ustrezne infrastrukture v zvezi z alternativnimi gorivi. Gre za ukrepe spodbujanja uporabe alternativnih goriv v smislu uporabe goriv pri vozilih, vzpostavitev polnilne infrastrukture, normativne ureditve, izobraževanje in ozaveščanje. Izdelan je tudi akcijski načrt za energetsko učinkovitost do leta 2020, ki pa je tudi povzet v celovitem energetskem in podnebnem načrtu. Potem obstajajo še tudi operativni programi, ki za zmanjšanje emisij toplogrednih plinov in operativni program za izvajanje evropske kohezijske politike. Oba sta bila predvidena do obdobja 2020 in sta v pripravi tudi dva nova. Odlok o programu uporabe sredstev sklada za podnebne spremembe pa v naslednjih 4 letih namenja sredstva za zmanjševanje emisij v prometu, med drugim za spodbujanje trga alternativnih goriv v prometu 14,8 milijona evrov, za izgradnjo železniških prog 20 milijona evrov in spodbujanje železniškega tovornega prometa v letu 2020 in 2021 je predvidenih 15 milijonov evrov. V Sloveniji je vzpostavljen tudi oziroma ustanovljen tudi slovenski okoljski sklad, tako imenovani ekosklad, ki tudi predvideva subvencioniranje ali pa kreditira naložbe. Posredno za prevoz tovora je predviden nakup sofinanciranje oziroma kreditne naložbe za nakup vozil, za nadgradnjo na alternativni goriva in nepovratne finančne spodbude za nakup in montažo energijsko učinkovitih pnevmatik. Tudi so v pripravi so še tudi določene strategije, kot strategija prostorskega razvoja Slovenije, kot sem rekla, je ta iz 2004 že zastarela, potem nacionalni program varstva okolja, energetski koncept, programski dokumenti za izvajanje kohezijske politike v novem obdobju in v pripravi so tudi, kot je že kolegica povedala, nacionalne smernice za pripravo strategij upravljanja mestne logistike. Področje zelene logistike pokrivajo številni pravni akti, torej zakoni in podzakonski akti, ki so večinoma sektorski. V pripravi je tudi zakon o celostnem prometnem načrtovanju, ki bo tudi celovito zajel trajnostno načrtovanje prometa na vseh segmentih in tudi seveda področje upravljanja logistike. V zadnjem obdobju so bile izdelane nekatere študije oziroma strokovne podlage. Resolucija o razvoju slovenske logistike in transportne infrastrukture, ki je bila izdelana na Ekonomski fakulteti Univerze v Ljubljani, ni bila sicer nikoli potrjena. Cilji tega dokumenta so pa bili zagotovitev prometne učinkovitosti sistema in zagotovitev stabilnega poslovnega modela lastnikov in upravljavcev infrastrukture. Potem so bile izdelane tudi študije zagotavljanja parkirnih površin za tovorna vozila ob slovenskih avtocestah in hitrih cestah, strokovne podlage za razvoj koridorskih prog v Sloveniji, kjer so zasnovani ukrepi na podlagi ugotavljanja potreb in uveljavljenih prometno-tehničnih standardov. Ukrepi so navedeni tudi po scenarijih in prioritetah in na koncu je tudi predlagan en scenarij, tako imenovani S1. Izdelane so pa bile tudi strokovne podlage in predštudije upravičenosti za nadgradnjo regionalnih železniških prog ter železniškega omrežja na področju ljubljanske urbane regije. Te strokovne podlage so še v izdelavi, so pa znani že določene vmesne študije oziroma vmesni separati. Izvajale so se raziskave o blagovnem potencialu in analiza dosedanjega stanja blagovnega prometa na industrijskih tirih oziroma na lokalnem delu na postajah. Izdelan je tudi nacionalni prometni model v Sloveniji. Pregled statističnih podatkov nam pove, da so izpusti toplogrednih plinov da so se izpusti do leta 2014 povečali za več kot 150% glede na leto 1986. V splošnem so se v Evropski uniji izpusti toplogrednih plinov po znižanju v obdobju med 2008 in 2014 znova povečali. Velik delež izpustov toplogrednih plinov pa je seveda iz tovornega prometa. Delež obnovljivih virov energije v prometu v zadnjih letih narašča, prav tako pa narašča pač količina oziroma prometno delo po cestah in po železnicah. V letu 2004 je recimo bilo razmerje med prevozom prepeljanega blaga po cesti in po železnici v razmerju 3:1, danes je pa to razmerje že 5:1. Skratka, prometno delo po cesti oziroma prometno delo prepeljanega tovora po cesti bistveno bolj narašča kot po železnici. Če pogledamo še tonažo, prav tako količina tovora narašča na vseh prometnih sistemih, razen letalskem, ki je nekako konstanta, vendar bistveno bolj narašča v cestnem prometu, nekoliko manjša je bila v obdobju gospodarske krize. Tovornjakov in registriranih tovornjakov in tovornih priklopnih vozil je vse več, v bistvu število strmo narašča. Imamo pa tudi že nekaj lahkih gospodarskih in težkih gospodarskih vozil na alternativne pogon, predvsem so to lahka tovorna vozila, utekočinjen naftni plin, recimo na utekočinjen naftni plin je že kar nekaj gospodarskih vozil. Če še pogledamo podatke o tovornem prometu v Sloveniji, v cestnem transportu tovora se največ prevaža v notranjem in v tranzitnem prometu. Če pogledamo delež po opravljenem delu, je seveda večji delež v tranzitu, saj se tovor prevaža na bistveno daljše razdalje. Naloženost tovornih vozil je relativno nizka, najnižja je v notranjem prometu, saj je v notranjem prometu tudi večji delež praznih voženj, tudi razdalje so kratke, povprečno glede na tonske kilometre pa imamo tam okrog 15 ton na vozilo naloženost. Pri železniškem prometu se večinoma tovora pripelje v izvozu ali v uvozu, podobno je to pri tonaži kot tudi pri prometnem delu. Distribucija je pa tudi v železniškem prometu, če pogledamo distribucijo naloženosti, po podatkih se kaže, da je tudi dosti voženj s prazno vlakovno kompozicijo. Primerjavo cestnega in železniškega prometa je v bistvu v neslavno korist cestnega prometa. Po cesti se prepelje skoraj 131 milijonov ton na leto, medtem ko železnici 21,3 milijone. V notranjem prometu je pa seveda 94% blaga prepeljanega, oziroma 94% blaga prepeljanega po cesti. Če pogledamo še prometno delo, Po cesti je opravljenega več kot 3/4 prometnega dela, povprečna razdalja prepeljanega tovora po cesti je 140 km in po železnici 242. Za velik potencial prevoza tovora predstavlja prevoz v tranzitu. Če bi recimo prenesli 10% prepeljanega tovora po cestnem omrežju na železniško omrežje, bi pomenilo, da se poveča tranzitni prevoz tovora po železnici za kar 110%. To je sigurno področje, ki bi ga bilo treba, ki je pač bi bilo potreba posebno pozornost posvetiti v prihodnjih letih. Težnje blagovnega prometa po železnici so v smereh glavnih železniških prog in zato so tudi seveda glavne železniške proge pač s tovornim prometom najbolj obremenjene. Analiza zmogljivosti in izkoriščenosti glavnih prog v Sloveniji je pokazala leta 2015, pokazala, da so ene proge, kot sta Koper-Divača, že prebile to svojo zmogljivost in da so tudi nekatere druge proge takšne, kjer se pričakuje, da bodo v naslednjih letih dosegle zmogljivost. Kot sem povedala, je bil za koridorske proge predlagan scenarij S1, ki predvideva posodobitev železniškega omrežja na vseh segmentih. In sicer gre za scenarij, ki se je pokazal kot najbolj upravičen. To ni scenarij, kjer bi se vsi odseki železniškega omrežja dosegli standard vseevropskega omrežja, vendar je to vseeno scenarij, ki se pač predlaga kot učinkovit in kjer bi proge lahko dosegle ustrezne kapacitete za prognozirane prometne obremenitve. Zdaj, te študije, ki so bile izdelane, različne ankete in analize, lahko zaključimo, da je v Sloveniji zgrajenih več logističnih centrov, vendar skladiščnih kapacitet oziroma zemljišč ustrezne namenske rabe za skladiščenje v Sloveniji primanjkuje. Zato bi morala Slovenija biti zelo aktivna pri planiranju oziroma ščitenju zemljišč ustrezne rabe za tovrstno dejavnost, za konsolidacije, na primer, za gradnjo logističnih terminalov in podobno. Podjetja menijo, da bi več uporabljala železniški prevoz, če bi bil bolj zanesljiv in cenejši. Gradnjo industrijskih tirov, ki so v zasebni lasti, država ne subvencionira, jih pa regulira zaradi zagotavljanja varnosti prometa. Velik izziv pa predstavlja prevoz tovora za potrebe gradbenega sektorja na drugačen način, bolj trajnosten. Tovrstni tovor predstavlja približno polovico blaga, prepeljanega v notranjem cestnem prometu. Republika Slovenija sledi direktivam in predpisom Evropske unije ter zavezam, ki iz njih izhajajo, in je sprejela kar nekaj strateških dokumentov s področja razvoja prometa, ki sicer sledijo ciljem zmanjšanja obremenitev okolja onesnaževali in prispeva k dvigu kvalitete bivanja. Predvideva vrsto ukrepov posodabljanja železniške infrastrukture, ki jo v delu že izvaja, ter izvaja tudi spodbude za nadgradnjo energetske učinkovitosti vozil. Vendar pomembnejših ukrepov, ki bi vplivali na zmanjšanje vplivov na podnebje zaradi logističnega sektorja, še ni pričela izvajati, jih načrtuje v prihodnosti in za dosego zastavljenih okoljskih ciljev iz energetske in podnebne strategije bo morala biti država bistveno bolj proaktivna. Upam, da bomo na to temo v nadaljevanju, v diskusiji po odmoru lahko malo več predebatirali in ugotovili, kje so tiste glavni vzroki za določeno izvajanje oziroma neizvajanje ukrepov. Tako da hvala za pozornost.
Ja, hvala, Mateja. Očitno je torej, da na Slovenijo na tem področju čaka še veliko dela. Verjamem, da se je marsikomu izmed vas tekom predavanja že porodilo kakšno vprašanje. Naj torej še enkrat spomnim, vprašanja lahko zapišete v chat oziroma klepet. Če ga imate slučajno zaprtega, ga lahko, ukolikor ste prijavljeni preko aplikacije na računalniku, najdete pod zavihkom More, kjer se vam odpre potem meni, v katerem najdete chat. No, kako so se pa okolju prijazne logistike lotili v sosednji Avstriji, nam bodo povedali naši naslednji gostje. In ker želimo biti dobri gostitelji, naj na tej točki preklopim kar na angleški jezik, da nas bodo tudi oni razumeli. So, hello to all our guests from Austria, Ms. Anderloh, Ms. Bittner-Krautzak, and Mr. Posset. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be here to ask questions from the audience. So, as mentioned before, those of you who would like to ask our guests questions, please use Zoom's chat to do so in English or Slovenian, whichever you prefer. Our first speaker will talk about combined transport as an environmentally friendly solution for freight transport. So, without further ado, if you're ready, Ms. Anderloh.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I think
Perfect.
everybody hears you. Good. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. So, good morning. My name is Lisa Anderloh. I'm from the Austrian Ministry for Climate Action, Environment, Energy, Mobility, Innovation and Technology. It's quite a complicated and a long name, but I wanted to say it at least once correctly. Let me start with wishing you all the very best in this very difficult Corona situation. Of course, we would have loved to join you directly in person in Slovenia, but as it's the same situation for you, this is currently not possible. However, we are very happy that we have video conferences, tools, and that we can also participate virtually. So thank you very much for the invitation and for the organization of this workshop. So for my presentation, I would like to share my screen. I hope it works. I think you should all see the screen. So I'm currently in the Department for Combined Transport. So I'm very happy to present you the combined transport as an environmentally friendly solution of freight transport. I'd like to start first with giving you an overview of the transport policy strategy and guidelines. Then I'd like to continue with our current situation of freight transport. And I'm going to end with all our measures to support combined transport. Since 2012, we have a transport master plan. It was introduced 2012. Our main goal was to reach a model split share of rail of 40% after finishing all the big rail infrastructure projects. This was already quite an ambitious goal. However, at the beginning of this year, we got a new government, and currently we have a new mobility master plan in preparation, which have an even more ambitious goal, which is to reach climate neutrality by 2040. And we do know that shifting to more environmentally modes of transport will not be enough. We also have to avoid transport, and the rest, which can't be shifted, has to be improved. On the left side, you can see a figure of the current CO2 emissions resulting from road transport. In total, Austria had about 24 million tons of CO2 equivalent, of which more than half of it results from individuals, so car transport. However, on the figure on the right side, you can see that between 1990 and 2019, so the last 30 years, the CO2 emissions resulting from lorries are growing much faster than those from cars. On the figure on the left side, you can see the external costs of transport, and I think it's not really surprising, we all know it. the external costs for road transport are much higher than for inland waterways and for rail. The source here is the Handbook on External Costs from the European Commission. So our aim is to basically reduce the road transport and to increase the share of rail transport. On the right figure, you can see that Austria currently has about 32% of rail share, which is compared to Switzerland less, but compared to, for example, to the European Union 28 average, which is currently about 18%, it's still much more. On this figure, you can see how much is invested per capita in rail infrastructure. Currently, it's about 220 euros in Austria per each person. The data are from 2019. But maybe even more important than this slide, which shows you the absolute number, is the next slide. Because here you can see how much money is being spent in rail infrastructure versus road infrastructure. And this also clearly shows you the different transport policy priorities. Austria is the second column, and you can see that we spend around about double as much on rail infrastructure than on road infrastructure, compared to, for example, Germany. That's the first column, where they spend much more on road infrastructure than on rail infrastructure. In the current financing period, or the next financing period, 2021 to 2026, Austria will spend about 17.5 billion euros for rail infrastructure. This is historically, it's the biggest budget we've ever had. The last period was about 13 billion euros. However, we do know that not all of the transport can be shifted to rail. This is due to capacity limits, but also because the road simply has its advantages, especially in the first and the last mile. So Austria started to support the combined transport very, very early, because it simply combines the best of two worlds. You have the road on the first and last mile, and you have rail or ship on the long run. We currently do not have combined transport with ship, just with road and railways. And we do know that the infrastructure investments are an absolutely necessity. However, we experience that if we do not have accompanying measures, then a shift doesn't happen automatically. So we introduced a lot of measures to support combined transport. We have financial support for operations, for terminals and railway sidings, for logistics, for innovation, for research. And in addition to all of the financial supports, we also have the regulatory and fiscal measures. I'd like to start with the financial support for the operation. This is a state aid for the provision of rail freight services such as single wagon load traffic. For unaccompanied combined transport, this is a transport with containers, swap bodies or semi-trailers, or the rolling road, we call it roller, which is the transport of the whole lorry onto the rail. And the European Commission gives its approval. Basis is the aid compensates for the difference either between the costs of using infrastructure or for the difference in external costs between road and rail. The financial support is giving as a non-repayable grant. It's an annual call, and the funding contracts are being done with the railway undertakings. This year we have a budget of about 120 million euros, but by the end of the year, due to the current Corona situation, we decided to have a special Corona support, and it will be even higher, about 140 million euros. Just to give you a quick overview how much money we spend as financial support. the subsidy for single wagon load traffic is giving in euros per 1,000 netto ton and kilometers. For domestic transport underneath 100 kilometers, it's the highest subsidy, which is about 22 euros. And for import and export underneath, over 100 kilometers, it's 5 euros, and it's the lowest subsidy rate. The subsidy for roller is giving in euro per lorry, and it differs according to the transport route used in Austria. And on the Brenner axis, we also differ it according to the daytime or nighttime, because the road toll is also differentiated between day and nighttime. In general, the subsidy varies between 47 and 94 euros. And on the roller from Wels to Slovenia and Maribor, we currently have a subsidy of 77 euros per each lorry being transported onto the roller. And the most complex system we have for the unaccompanied combined transport, where the grant is giving in euros per intermodal transport unit. So for a container, swap body, or semi-trailer, we differentiate between domestic import-export or transit transport. It is classed according to the weight. So we differ between underneath 25 tons and above. And we also differ regarding the distances being done in Austria. On the figure on the right side, you can see the matrix. It's quite complicated. You can find everything on the website if you are interested. Just to give you the lowest and the highest subsidy rate for UCT per September 2020. The lowest subsidy rate is 9 euros. It's for transit, for a unit below 30 feet of the lowest distance class, so between 30 and 100 kilometers, and with a weight above 25 tons. And the highest subsidy is giving for domestic transport if it's a size of at least 40 feet, lower than 25 tons, and of the highest distance class, which is currently above 250 kilometers. And in addition, we also have a so-called mountain bonus. Why do we have such an additional bonus subsidy? Because we do know that the external costs in sensitive mountainous regions are higher. So also the subsidy is higher. And as I already mentioned at the overview, because of the current COVID situation, which also hit the railway a lot, we introduced an increasement of the subsidies. The first one was given for the roller support. This is a permanent one. And then we also introduced increase of subsidy for UCT and single wagon load. The first increase was in May, and the second increase was this September. The second increase was even more significant by up to 40% of the rates we used to have before. And in difference to the roller, the subsidy for UCT and single wagon load is currently limited until the end of the year. Next to the financial support for operation, we also have support for terminals and railway sidings. First, we have, according to the Railway Act, the infrastructure financing laid down, and these financing regulations include the ÖBB terminals, so the Austrian Federal Railway terminals. But in addition, we also have a program, a support program for private terminals. The current period is from 2018 till 2022. We support the construction, expansion of siding facilities, as well as transshipment facilities. And the longer a facility is in operation, the higher the budget usually is. So if it's in operation for about 11 years, then the funding can be up to 50%. Here you can see a map of the terminals we currently have in Austria. On the left side, you can see the UCT terminals. We have 14, of which 4 are trimodal, so they also offer the possibility to shift onto the ship. And on the right side, you can see the map of our roller terminals. We have 2 on the Brenner axis. The one I already mentioned before, from Wels to Slovenian Maribor. And we also have one in Salzburg to Italy's Trieste, but this relation is currently not operating. We have a financial support for logistics. This is the only very new program which was introduced 2019. It is to implement innovative logistics concepts, and we also differ between feasibility studies and implementation projects. If it's a study, then the budget can be up to 100,000 euros, and the duration is also limited to 1 year. If it's an implementation project, the budget is up to 300,000 euros, and the duration can be longer, it can be up to 3 years. We also do support the innovation. The current program will end 2020. The funding is intended to support investments into facility and systems, but as well for the mobile equipment. And the level of support, so the level of budget, is determined according to the expected reduction in traffic congestion. We differ between support for physical investments, then the funding extends to a maximum of 30%. And we also support feasibility studies or, for example, staff trainings. Then the funding can be up to 50%. But here we have a budget limit per each project, which is about 800,000 euros. The program budget was currently about 3 million euros per year, but we will have a prolongation of the program starting with the following year till 2025. And the name will slightly change. It won't be the support for innovation, but the program for investments for combined transport. And the budget will also be a little bit higher, about 4 million euros per each year. Regarding the financial support for research, my colleague, Ms. Sarah Bittner-Krautzak, will go into more details later. So I will switch on that. And in addition to all the financial supports, we also have regulatory and fiscal measures. The fiscal measures is basically a tax incentive. So if you use your trailer only or exclusively for the initial and final road leg, then you are exempted from the motor vehicle tax. And upon application, you can get a 15% reduction for each rail transport you do. As to the regulatory measures, you might know that the limit of weight in Austria in general is 40 tons on the road. But if you do the combined transport, initial and final road tax, then you can drive with 44 tons. But you have to go to the nearest technological suitable rail terminal. This terminal can be situated in another member state, but only if it's closer than within Austrian territory. We also have some deregulations, such as the liberalized initial and final road legs in international combined transport. We have liberalized road corridors to or from the rolling road terminals to the borders, and also liberalized area. But these areas or the corridors are mainly interested for third countries. If you do combined transport, you are exempted from weekend and holiday driving bans. You are exempted from summer and winter holiday driving bans, as well as from night driving bans. Also interesting for third countries are the supplementary permits when you use the roller. So the more roller you use, the more permits you get to drive on the road. And regarding the rest periods, the times that a lorry driver spend on a roller is considered to be a rest period. All of the measures I have just introduced to you can be found on our website in German and in English. It's very important for us to have these subsidies transparent, so that everyone knows how much we spend, and also for the companies when they are in the dealing process with the railway companies, that they can better have better rates for them. So thank you very much. I'm currently in the Department for Combined Transport in the Directorate General for European and International Affairs, but soon I'm going to move to another Directorate General into the Department for Goods Transport, but I'll still be responsible for combined transport. So I'm happy for any questions you have.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Ms. Anderlo. That was very informative, and it's always good to get another viewpoint of how the same or maybe similar challenges are approached in other countries. It seems our participants are maybe a little bit shy. Again, if anyone has a question pertaining to what we just heard from Ms. Anderlo, please write it down in the chat. But we do have one question. So is the area of logistics, for example, combined transport, regulated individually, or is it part of another legislation? And if yes, which legislation?
That's a good question, because we have several regulations. So first of all, we have a European legislation, which is from the year 92, the Directive 92/106 EEC. Yeah, it's quite old. During our presidency, which was 2018, we started with a new proposal, but it didn't get through. So we still have the basis from the year 92. And because it's a European directive, each member state has to implement it in its own legislation. And the directive has two main characters. One is the tax incentives, and the second is the deregulations and the liberalizations. The tax incentives are laid down in the Ministry of Finance, so we're not responsible for it in the Ministry of Transport. And the second, the deregulations are laid down in a lot of different road legislations in Austria. So if you're interested in it, you can find everything on the website, because above, or actually, I think after the explanations of each measure, you can also find the legal grounds. Mm-hmm. And all of the financial supports don't really have a legal basis. It's part of a notification procedures to the European Commission.
Mm-hmm. It's all quite complex if you're not in this exact field. Thank you for answering that. It seems like for now, oh, we just got a question. So do the subventions for the logistics in the cities, do you also have subventions for city logistics? So for the setting up of consolidation centers, transition to cleaner, greener vehicles. Is this something you also have?
We do have it. First of all, it's partly included in the financial support for logistics. This was the program introduced in 2019. but even more, it's included in the support for research, and this will be part of the presentation of Ms. Bittner-Krautzak. She will go into more details about that.
Okay, so hopefully we'll get an answer to that. And if not, please ask if there are any questions, if there were any, if you're uncertain about anything, if something was unclear, please feel free to ask our guests questions. That's what they're here for. So thank you, Ms. Anderlu, for now. And thank you, everyone who asked questions, but don't move your fingers away from the keyboards quite yet. Next up are Ms. Bittner-Krautzak and Mr. Posset, who will tell you a bit more about research in logistics, which focuses more on the mobility of goods. So I hope they're here already.
Yes, thank you very much for this nice introduction. My name is Sarah Bittner-Krautzak, and I also work in the Austrian Ministry for Climate Action, and there in the mobility of transport technologies. I will start my presentation now. Just 1 second. So, can you already see it? Perfect. So, then just let it start. Wait 1 second. Now it's working. Yes, myself, I'm located in the Directorate General for Innovation and Technology, and there in the Department for Mobility and Transport Technologies. The year 2020 is very important for us because in the area of mobility policy, as Lisa has already told you, we are developing a new mobility master plan 2030, which will show a path to climate neutrality in 2040. And on the other side, in the area of research, technology and innovation policy, we are developing a research, technology and innovation strategy 2030. It's already in finalization, and it will show how research, technology and innovation will contribute to achieve the climate targets and to overcome the climate crisis. And in between, there is the research, technology and innovation policy for mobility. And we developed for the first time over the last year, a research, technology and innovation strategy on mobility. There we try to, it should serve as a bridge between the research, technology and innovation policy and the mobility policy. We published it in September this year, and it strongly focuses on transformation and has a very strong mission-oriented focus. I will introduce you to the new strategy by my last slides. All I'm going to present you now is based on older strategies. The Austrian Ministry for Climate Action is responsible for applied research, and this is located in the Department for, or the Directorate General for Innovation and Technology. We orientate ourselves at the Research, Technology and Innovation Strategy from 2011 at the moment. And our target groups are the companies and the research organizations, mainly companies that work together with other companies or with research organizations. We offer for them research, technology and innovation grants. And with them, we want to help the companies to become more innovative. We want to help to develop solutions to overcome the climate crisis. And we would like to increase the number of people employed in the area of technology and innovation with a very special attention to the proportion of women. Therefore, we have thematic programs, and there's one program on mobility. And by doing R&D projects, the companies can produce sustainable solutions, and they can increase their innovation capacity and we as a state organization, we could act in an impact-oriented way. This is the logic of what we do, or why we are doing it. And now I'm going to focus on the Research, Technology and Innovation program on mobility, which is called Mobility of the Future. It started in 2012. Currently, we have an annual budget of about 25 million euros. Since the beginning, we have had 4 thematic fields, 2 technological oriented fields, the transport infrastructure and the vehicle technologies, and we have 2 systemic fields where it's not only about to develop technologies, but also to address social and organizational innovations. And the one is personal mobility and the other is mobility of goods. And over the program running time, we also have developed 2 new topics. The first one is since we introduced in 2015 on automated mobility, and the second one in 2018 on automation, digitalization, and decarbonization of the rail systems. All our calls, we have a call twice a year, or we have calls twice a year, are managed by the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. So the outcomes of the project we fund should be new and improved products, processes, services, or business models. And the research organizations should produce new knowledge with a special focus on specific applications in our program on mobility. Therefore, we have operational objectives in the program where we address technological, social, and organizational innovations, but we also would like to strengthen the link between the mobility policy and the research, technology, innovation policy. And we would like to expand the knowledge and the network in mobility in Austria. In the long term, we would like to address an impact on economic growth and on improvements for environment and society. And therefore, we have our strategic program objectives on that 3 pillars. So how do we get from results of projects like new, improved product, processes, services, and business models and knowledge to economic growth improvements for environment and society? We know that there is no direct link, and we know that there are a lot of external factors. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of risk, and a lot of unknown information. And despite we know that research, technology, innovation grants don't have a linear but systemic effects, they have cumulative effects, and they act through a variety of external factors, and they have long-term effects only. And despite all of that, we try to do our best to invest in research, technology, and innovation. I would like to focus now on the topic mobility of goods only. We have there 5 main research fields: sustainable mobility of goods in urban or suburban areas, then the sustainable mobility of goods in rural areas, because there are different conditions. Then we have the multimodal hubs, the sustainable transport changes networks, and as 5th, the innovative means and media of transport. Those 5 main research fields contains 19 research topics. They can bundle to digitalization, decarbonization, and technologies. We have developed them by doing a stakeholder process in 2014-15. And in the area of technologies, where it's, there we only address technological solutions like new wagons, cargo handling technologies, loading Unix boxes. But in all the other areas, we do not only address technological, but also organizational innovations. So the integration of data, optimization of processes, coordination, cooperation, new business models, use of infrastructure, and the integration of our environmentally friendly transport modes, for example. Our instruments are thematical instruments, but we have also introduced structural and human resources instruments. The thematical instruments are more or less the core of our program. Our main instruments are the cooperative R&D projects, where companies work together with another company or other companies and research organizations. Then there are feasibility studies to prepare those cooperative R&D projects, but we have also instruments with a higher project volume, but not that many. And we also fund transnational cooperative R&D projects, more on that later. And we do also finance studies on specific questions, for example, on impact assessment or on analyzing trends in logistics. We have developed a structural instrument over the running time of our program, which is called Innovation Labs. And we use them for test environments for automated driving, as well as for urban mobility labs. More on that also later. And last but not least, we also fund endowed professorships, one on sustainable transport logistics 4.0 at the Johannes Kepler University in Linz, and one on digitalization automation in the transport and mobility system at the University of Natural Science in Vienna. Since 2012, for mobility of goods, we have invested 37 million euros of funding, and that funding represents over 60 million euros of the total project volume. This means that the funding is about 65% of the total project costs. We have funded 136 research technology and innovation projects on mobility of goods so far. And you can see here that in the core area are the cooperative R&D projects, followed by the feasibility studies for the cooperative R&D projects, and also the flagship projects. The target, or our target group, are the companies from the transport and logistics sector. And also we know that it is very hard to motivate them for research technology innovation. We have managed to get over 240 organizations, different organizations involved in our program. You can see here a chart. In green are the companies, and in dark red and light red, you can see the non-university research organizations and university research organizations. And they have a very important role because they are the ones who are linking the companies. Mostly the projects are led by them or managed by them and initiated by them. Because in the companies, they do not have the resources or a contact person for doing research, technology, and innovation for the whole day. Now I would like to give you some examples on cooperative R&D projects. We have a big refinery in Austria that work together with the Rail Cargo Austria on a digital partnership for capacity management in rail freight. The prototype was created within our program, the project, and they are still working on the implementation of this. Some research associates from the Technical University in Graz, they developed an automatic goods unloading system for large distribution centers in the courier, express, and parcel sector. And after the project ended, they founded a startup and got the Austrian Post as a stakeholder, and they are testing their system at their distribution centers. We have here one example on a technological innovation. It's a wagon for timber, an innovative digitalized high performance wagon, also usable for combined transport. And after the project finished, it went to serious production, and now you can already buy this kind of wagon. Here is one example on a multimodal hub project. You have here a project where there was involved a crane, a system manufacturer, and they tried to link data at the terminals to develop a terminal 4.0, and now the data is used for other terminals in Austria. A very old project, I think from the beginning of our program, was a project where the Austrian Post worked together with a research organization and a food retailer, and you can order your fresh foods. It's important because for fresh foods there are not that many solutions yet, and you will get your delivery by the next day by the Austrian Post to your home. Then I would like to give you ideas on two very recently finished projects. The first is was a project where a cable car manufacturer, an Austrian, worked together with a research organization, and they analyzed how the mixed transport of goods and persons in a cable car in a city for a city application could work. And then there was a project which rethought parcel delivery, because they separated the business to business customers from the business to consumer customers, and to make benefits or produce benefits for both groups. Then we have here also some examples on sustainable from the research field, sustainable mobility of goods in urban areas. Currently, we have 6 running projects on cooperatively used logistics hubs with a funding of about 1.8 million euros. And we have also networking concept implemented. There is an initiative ongoing between the County of Lower Austria and the County of Vienna on Sustainable Logistics 2030. And they have 10 pilot projects running, and 4 out of them are funded by our program, 2 on cooperatively used logistics hubs, 1 on the development on the freight transport model for the Austrian Eastern region, and 1 on a mobile system for recording the occupancy of loading zones. Now I would like to come to the project with a very high volume. There we have one brand new project which started in May this year and will run until 2024. It's led by Fraunhofer Austria with 16 Austrian organizations from the business and the scientific sector, and they would like to demonstrate that cooperative logistics works in Austria by implementing 5 pilots. Then we have one a bigger project which was funded by the rail system thematic topic, but it also contains solutions for goods transports, like dispatching of empty wagons, the digital automated coupling, and the shunting of the future. And there is one project funded from the thematic field of automated driving. It's a project which will be finished by the end of this month on the formation, implementation, and dissolution from automated truck convoys. It's more or less on road transport. Then I have already mentioned the new instrument where we are very proud of, which is called Innovation Lab. We use it for urban mobility labs, and we fund them with about a maximum of about 1 million euros up to 4 years per innovation lab. We have 4 urban mobility, we have 5 at the moment, 5 urban mobility labs all over Austria. And there is one urban mobility lab, the ThinkPort Vienna, which only focuses on mobility of goods, while the others address the topic among other topics. And we fund 50% of the total costs only. And you can see here a nest with X, and X are the projects, and the nest is the environment, and the innovation labs. Via the innovation labs, we fund the nest, but not the X. This is important to understand the instrument. The second application for that instrument are the test environments for automated driving. And there we have one test track of about length of 2.2 kilometers on asphalt and up to 7 kilometers off-road in Upper Austria. And they also address goods topics, like they are analyzing hub-to-hub transport projects or an industrial shuttle between a production and a logistics center. And they also worked for on topics for truck platooning for the to make the vehicle constellations more energy efficiently. We also support a lot of networking activities. Every time when we open a call, we organize an event series called Successful Through Innovation in Transport and Logistics. We do a lot of networking workshops on the concluded R&D projects. We also once did a workshop on women in transport logistics, and we developed a network series on dissertation projects and also on hub projects, which is currently still running. And we do also support events, fora like the Physical Internet Conference, the international one, which took place in Graz. We also fund transnational cooperative R&D projects by participating in Aeronets, like Aeronet Matec, Aeronet Transport, and Electromobility Plus. This could also be an option to cooperate with Slovenia in the future by doing or funding transnational cooperative R&D projects together. If you would like to get more information on what we are doing, we have a brand new brochure. It was published in September. It contains about 150 R&D projects, national projects funded by our program, but also the European projects from Horizon 2020, which include Austrian partners. Unfortunately, it's only available in German, but I think today it's you can do a translation via the internet. So I would also just make a little bit of outlook to the European level. There is the European Technology Platform on logistics, which is called ELIS, and we have Austrian members there. The Austrian Ministry for Climate Action and the Association Network Logistics is part of the Miro Group, and there we have 5 ELIS members from Austria: the freight forwarder Gebrüder Weiss, the retailer Hofer, the research organization Logistikum, and the Association of the Austrian research organizations on logistics, Logistics Research Austria, and one small company called Product Plugs. And they participated in the ELIS working groups. We have implemented a national ELIS Miro Group. Why? Because we want to see the intermodal topics in Horizon 2020 and in the future Horizon Europe strengthened, and we would like to activate our national community to participate. What we do, we would like to motivate them to participate in calls on European level, but also on transnational calls. And we would like to coordinate the Austrian input to the ELIS roadmaps and other strategic documents on European level related to logistics. We would like to inform them about calls and best practices on European level, and we would like to link the Austrian activities to the physical internet idea. Who is participating? We invite the Austrian research organizations and companies that are involved in European projects or in transnational projects. We meet annually since 2014. We have a tool for information exchange, and we also do an expert secondment for the members of the Association of the Austrian Research Organizations in Logistics. Now, just some slides on the outlook of our new strategy. So our new strategy is called Research, Technology and Innovation Mobility 2040. We have a vision that is innovations in and from Austria for a climate neutral mobility system in Europe. And we as a ministry responsible for applied research, we would like to serve as a research, technology, innovation political initiator to make the vision possible. For the realization, on a thematical, from a thematical point of view, we decided to not focus on technological areas and not on transport modes, but we decided to focus on fields of missions and on what we can do from the research, technology, and innovation perspective. You have only structural instruments available, and there we have identified 4 research, technology, innovation measures. The 4 fields of missions, we have 2 fields that represent the spatial dimension, cities making urban mobility climate neutral, and regions mobilizing and sustainable connecting rural areas, because the conditions, circumstances are different in cities and regions. And then we have the more technologically oriented fields of missions: digitalization, operating infrastructure, mobility and logistics services efficiently and in a climate-friendly manner. And the 4th one, focusing on technology, developing environmentally friendly transport technologies. For the measures, we would like to implement them by taking into account gender and diversity aspects. We would like to focus also in the future on research, technology, innovation funding, but with a more transformation and more mission-oriented approach. We would like to further work with the innovation labs, which we would like to expand to experimental rooms and regulatory sandboxes. We would like to set up alliances and implementation partnerships and support the European and international positioning. The strategy is so far also only available in German, but it will be available in English before Christmas. So I can send you the link then, and you can see here a picture from the final event in the middle with our minister, who signed together with 17 high-level representatives from the business sector and scientific sector, the vision, and they gave a commitment also for the implementation of the strategy. So this was my presentation. I hope it was not too long, and I hope that it will give you some ideas on the Austrian implementation of research, technology, and innovation.
Well, thank you, Ms. Bittner-Grauzak. Mr. Posset is scheduled as the next to deliver his presentation, and I think he's already here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Thank you for joining us. So if you're ready, I can just give you the word, so to say.
Okay, I am ready. The very last question is, I start screen sharing now. Is that okay for you?
That would be great. Yes.
Okay, I start it. Just a second.
Yes.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, hello from my side. My name is Martin Posset. I'm responsible for innovation and policy at Think for Vienna. Thank you for giving me the opportunity being part of your event today. I will give you an insight into Think for Vienna. Sarah Bittner-Grauzak already mentioned that there are 5 mobility labs in Austria. We are one of them, and our special focus is on logistics and urban logistics. That's why Think for Vienna is a cooperation of the Port of Vienna and the University of Natural Resources in Vienna, the Institute of Production and Logistics. And it is in the city of Vienna. It's the very first Viennese mobility lab that especially focuses on urban logistics, long-term challenges in the city. The cities are the spots of tomorrow where things happen. You can also say that cities will be or can be the game changers in how we do our transport and supply chains for supplying many peoples within a very dense area. And our mission is to develop, test, and implement innovations in the city of Vienna. And we started in 2017, and it will go on until April 2021. But as far as we know, it will go on for another 4 years. And I will give you some impressions of it. The photos above, you can see We are strongly related with politicians. The second photo from the right-hand side, you can see the former Commissioner for Transport, Violeta Bulc. I guess all of you know her. She also visited Thinkport. We had the mayor of the city of Amsterdam. You see local politicians like Peter Hanke and so on. And so we have the direct contact to the politicians, and the lower pictures show you that we have a strong context with technology, so electric vehicles, cargo bicycles, whatever comes into play when we talk about innovation. We are the ones who are the contact point and are the ones who support, from inventors to companies to industries to the city administration. Um, the photo, the very first on the left-hand side below is interesting because we managed it together with the embassy of the Netherlands in Austria. We did the very first fully electric, long-distance, temperature-controlled intermodal transport with a 40-ton electric truck. So we did a distance of 1,000 kilometers. This was a pilot project. It was more or less a world premiere we did. And so you can see what we do is we support the actors, we develop knowledge, we develop topics, we develop projects. And what's the new or the different thing in our doing is the implementation. So we support scientists, we take their results or experience and knowledge and try to implement it in real logistics processes. And this is our mission. That's why we say developing, testing, and implementing. But we also have a vision, and the vision is we want that Vienna takes a leading position in the implementation of such innovations, because Vienna is one of the smart cities in the world, and we want also to create this ecosystem for innovation in logistics. And that's why we said, okay, Vienna is the address for companies whenever they want to test something, or they look for an area, test area, piloting something. The first thing that comes into their mind is, oh, we go to Vienna because this is the place to be when we talk about urban logistics. So this is our mission and our vision. In a more detailed way, Thinkport is the contact point whenever it comes to these topics. So we self-call or define ourselves as a catalyst and multiplier for technologies, processes, and services. We have different functionalities in the system. We are a lab, we are a showroom, we are a meeting place, we are an exchange point, we are the bridge of the gap between the science and the real environment in the city. But we are also a logistics ambassador in both directions. You always have to keep in mind, whenever you want to change something in urban logistics, you have the administration, you have the politicians, you have the logistics actors, and you have the industry. And sometimes they meet, but they do not always talk the same language in a metaphoric way. So we are some kind of a translator, bringing them together because we have the knowledge of the logistics, but we also have the knowledge of what the city wants and how the city thinks. And we are also a real test environment because the Port of Vienna is our partner. So the whole area of the Port of Vienna, and it has the size of the Central Park in New York in total. We can use it as a test area. So this is a private area owned by the port. So we are very fast in implementation because we have roads, we have storages, we have equipment, whatever you want. We have an own container terminal. So there are all test cases, use cases, and piloting ideas can be done here, more or less immediately, as long as it is not dangerous or disrupting for standard processes in the port. Our focus is, of course, very technology driven. Logistics is very technology driven at the moment. So, but it is also optimization. So we also start in a first step, what is possible in optimization, but then it comes to infrastructure, vehicles, processes, but also new kind of services, because all over Europe, or I guess all over the world, people think about or talk about white label solutions, and we need emission-free transports in the cities. But the thing is, this is always easy to think through in theory, but doing it in practice is not that easy. And we collect a lot of knowledge because we have one of these hubs running since more than 1 year. And within, I guess, 1 week, we learned at least 10 points we didn't ever think of in theory when we prepared it. So it's really important to implement such things. We look at the whole city of Vienna, but of course, depending on the type of topic we are dealing with, we also have a street or a district focus. And we strongly integrate the different stakeholders. So cooperation, but also collaboration is important for us, as we did the first agile team in the city administration of Vienna. This was also a premiere for the city of Vienna. We developed a new way of working and collaboration with people of the city administration. This is also one thing what we did. And of course, we always try to use or better use existing infrastructure instead of bringing something new. Of course, bringing something new is also important, but in the first step, always take a look at what is existing, what do you have in your city, and then if it is not suitable for the use case you want to have, implement in the second step the new thing. So we have a broad spectrum of things we offer to our customers and stakeholders. It is, you can use our infrastructure, but also we are the moderators. We have different workshop formats. We do exhibitions. We also do events to bringing together the community. For example, in 2 weeks, we have at the 2nd November, the forum Green Logistics, which is the platform for all the people dealing with sustainable logistics in Vienna, but also in Austria, where we exchange topics and think about the future. We do it until 2030. So we started in 2015. We do it for 15 years, and then we stopped because we said in 2030 we reached all the environmental goals we wanted to achieve. I'm not sure if we will make it, but this was the idea when we started in 2015. Yeah, and we also do piloting projects, and we do monitoring of such processes to keep track of what works and what does not work to make some kind of a database of experience. So what is our, how do we create value, or what is our idea and strategy? We always say we have the network for all the people. Whenever you look for someone who needs a contact person in the city, in the industry, you need developers, you need logistics guys, you need contact to scientific, but also to the federal ministry and the other way around. We have a broad network. We have a database of about 1,200 people where we have direct contacts. So we always we are able to communicate on a short way. Whenever you want to test something, you can come to us. We had this case some years ago. They wanted to test autonomous driving in the city of Vienna, but they forgot to ask the city of Vienna, and the city said, yeah, autonomous driving is nice, but you can't do it in our area. And then we fixed it, I guess, it was 18 or 20 minutes. And then they were allowed to test their autonomous cars, because we have the area, we have a private road of 2.5 kilometers. So that's the way how we work. We always say, you need it, we do it, and afterwards we can evaluate what is needed to do a transferation to other areas. But if you just want to pilot it, come to us and we do it. The thing is, we have more or less the assignment to deal with all these things in the context of urban logistics. So this is our mission, and this is our daily work business. And the interesting thing is that we made it during the last 3.5 years, that we have also the contact and the allowness of the people in the city, so we can directly call them. They trust us, and that makes it easy, because if we have a topic, we just call them and say, how do you think? Does that somehow fit to your strategy? What is still needed? And it's very easy to have a short way communication with the city decision makers. But what's the great thing is, because I didn't mention until now, but it is important, we are funded by the federal ministry. We are funded by the ministry. We work in the city. All our people are employed at the university, and our partner is the Port of Vienna. And this gives you a sound basis of independency in what you do, what kind of topics you're interested in, the way you work. And this is one of our, you can call it, this is the unicorn of Thinkport Vienna. This independency we can do, we are not subordinated to the city, but we have the contact and we have the trust of the city decision makers. And this is the special thing why this experiment of Thinkport Vienna or the project really works. So what is important for us is being agile and inclusion of different stakeholders, or all stakeholders needed for a particular topic you're dealing with, is the thing what we say, this is our benefit promise. This is what makes it so special and important, because the industry and the companies are very agile, but the cities still have to learn a bit or a lot to interact with these stakeholders. So we directly include them. I already mentioned we had the first agile team for 4 months 2 years ago in the city of Vienna. It was a great experience for all the people from the administration, but also for us. And what's also important is thinking in solutions that satisfy real needs, because we are not used anymore in many European countries thinking and talking about problems. I guess Thinkport Vienna is the only location here. We are happy when we find problems, because problems are the things we are dealing with. So we are the problem seekers, or problem solvers, not always, but we are the problem seekers. And it's important to attribute such problems, because you have to talk about them to find ways. And a problem is always concerned or related to a need, and if you can solve such a problem, you always can satisfy such needs. And what's also important for the industry and the logistics service providers is the planning security. So you have to think in long-term time cycles. We talk about at least 3.55, but up to 8 years when changing something. Because just to give you an example, the typical truck for a food retailer, you use their cars up to 7 years. And if we say, okay, we change something, you're not allowed to access the city with a conventional Euro 6 diesel anymore. And we say, okay, we started in 2 years. Then they say, okay, hey, this doesn't work, because we have our trucks and we still will have to run them up to 5 years. But if you say, okay, we think about changing something in 5 to 6 years, then they have planning security. And then they also say, hey, we can do it, because all of them are interested in further serving the city of Vienna. None of them will ever say, okay, we stop it. We won't have any shops in the city of Vienna anymore, because we are not allowed to go there with diesel trucks. But if we have planning security, it's clear for them. And that's why if you take a look at our sequence of activities, we start with the scanning, we develop the topic, or we develop some kind of a project, we mediate between the actors, we moderate the process, how they can develop such a test environment. We test it and we pilot it in real city surroundings, but we are not always those who are the core of such projects. We are in many cases just the supporters. So we have great scientific projects, and we just help them in thinking that the scientific experience or result from the perspective of a city administrator or of real environment. And then we implement, evaluate, and transfer. And what we see and what we think is, you all know 2040 and Green Deal. There is something going on in the European Union, and what we always say, please do not forget, do not just think in technology. You also have to think about it in structures, because we are always we are very familiar in telling us each other best practices, but we are the ones who are more interested in telling you the blueprint, how you develop such a best practice, because a best practice is in many cases just a showcase. But for a city, it's much more interesting to have the blueprint, the way how to develop such a best practice. And it doesn't always mean that a best practice that works in one city necessarily works in another city. So don't forget about the structure, and the structure starts in the administration, because the administration is the one who prepares the decision-making process of the politicians, and we always need them. And we learn sometimes it takes 2-3 years preparing such a topic, and you say, hey, we did a lot of work, we have a sound decision basis, but then you have the wrong headline in the newspaper on the next day, and everything you did 2 and 2.5 years before, you have to keep it, and you have to wait another year because they say, it doesn't fit now. So don't forget about decision making in preparing change. I hope I'm not too long in time. You just give me a sign if I have to stop, okay? So we see ourselves as the address, the independent and open address for all innovations when it comes to logistics in the city of Vienna. And we really take care of how to deal in a very sensitive way with our stakeholders, because we have to understand their needs, and it's not always that easy. As you know, logistics is a hard business, and it always comes to money when you talk about logistics. There is no space for dealing with some romantic things. They just say, if you don't earn money, we're not interested in. But now we talk about a change where we have to think about more than money. So this is why you have these highlighted words like involving, communicating, working, trying, and implementing. But what's important is implementing is nice, but it also should be socially responsible. What about official hurdles? Is there some place for trying out something? Yes, there is some place, but you also need the framework allowing people to test something, because otherwise you end up in, you need a permission, and it takes you 4, 6, 8 months. And is it still an innovation when it comes to testing, when you need 8 months for such a permission? We have such, I guess in half an hour, we have 2 inventors here. They developed a cargo scooter, and we will test it for the very first time today. It is a nice project I show you later on. And they have no permission to run on public roads and streets. But it is a really nice a scooter, and you just have to try it. So we do it piloting today with a cargo bike company. It's also part of a scientific project, and it is another stakeholder that is involved is the public transport company of the city of Vienna. And we now have the stickers. So in 1 hour we start with putting up these huge stickers on the cargo scooter, and then we go out, and tomorrow we bring it to the city, and we will transport these parcels. And we just said, we do it. Yeah, they found nobody who said, okay, let's test it. No, we can't. This is no permission. It's difficult. And who should bring the parcels, and where do we go, and who will be the rider of the cargo scooter? And this is a perfect example how we do, or how we work. We said, okay, we bring together the stakeholders, and we put on the stickers, we transport it, we store it in our garage here in the port, and tomorrow we bring it to the city, and we just drive it, and then we know it. If it fails, hopefully it does not fail, then we also know why it fails. So failing is also some kind of a culture that is very important in such an environment. And why is it the city of Vienna? It's always talking. It's difficult talking about, or being a fan of the city of Vienna if you come from the city of Vienna. But it is a great place to do such things, because just take a look at different rankings. We are the livable city. We are the smart city. So the best city destination within Austria. We have the best CO2 footprint. And that's why we said we bring together these 4 areas, the logistics, the city, the citizens, and the science. And one thing that is missing in the city of Vienna, and this is our logical consequence, next step, we are the very best in many areas, but we are not the best in logistics and innovation. And so we say that Vienna takes a leading position in the implementation of socially supported freight logistics innovations. We want to be the one. We have no idea if it will be 2030. But this is at least where we want to go to. Then we say, okay, first place, innovation, logistics, Vienna. This is the bullet point that's still missing. This is the sequence of events. Sorry, it's just in German, but it was not that easy to translate it, but I will give you an English explanation of it. We started the initiative started by the BMK. Before was the BMVIT. the federal ministry. The initiative started in 2016. We opened up at the 17th of October 2017, so 3 days ago, 3 years ago. And we had some really nice experience. For example, here you can see that the startup, Neconato, they are still here now. It's called NXRT. They started with 2 guys, and they just came to our opening and said, hey, ThinkPod is somehow interesting for us. We want to do something. I guess now we have 26 people working for the startup. So it's really nice to do safety and security in virtual and augmented reality in road transport, rail transport, awareness. Everything that is needed when it comes to mixed and virtual reality. It's really nice what they do. They also invent such features. I have no idea what they do out there, but it looks really interesting. We had some Austrian premieres here. Sono Motors, they had their up and downs, but I guess now they're at the up again. Again, they had the problem. They wanted to do an Austrian premiere to show their crowdfunded vehicle, but it was not possible to find such a place. And we said, okay, come here. We have 3,000 square meters. Just start in half an hour. Just come, no problem. And then in 2018, during the TRA, Violeta Burz, the former transport commissioner, she decided to visit us. This was a great honor for us because she decided to come to us, and we always ask, why did you choose us? Because we are just a project we are thinking about. And she said, no, it's interesting. I want to see it. And then we checked an electric bus, and we brought her from the venue of the fair here to our port, and she was really in our room here. It was a really great experience. We also have a real innovation, which is a checklist for truck drivers. And the great thing on it is really an innovation because it started on a white sheet of paper, and we have our first customer. And this is by definition what we say this is innovation, because otherwise it's just technology. But if you make a new market or you make it into an existing market and you find someone who pays for something, we do not earn money for it. But the thing that we developed here is a real innovation because we have a customer. Another thing is the first agile team in the city of Vienna, 4 months. They took us to an incubator. We worked like these 18-year-old startup guys with people from the city administration, 4 months. And we developed a business plan for city logistics. We had some nominees for the Austrian State Prize by the BMK. We won the Golden Staffelholz, this is a special innovation prize of the city of Vienna. And we had the very first intermodal electric long distance, temperature controlled intermodal truck with a 40-ton electric truck from the Netherlands to Austria. We went from Venlo to Vienna. It was really great experience because everything that could fail, failed. We had a delay of 28 hours compared to a transport time of 24 hours. This also gives you an insight into how rail transport in Europe really works. And I guess you know it, thinking about the rail connection to terminals and to the markets, and the mixed transport of passenger and freight in the rail system. Yeah. And we had a lot of problems during this project, but we did it, and we collected, I guess, 100 points how it does not work. Since March last year, Hubbard stands for, in German, Hub, Entwickeln, Realisieren und Testen. It's an acronym. The very first white label logistics parcel delivery system in the city of Vienna. And last but not least, to keep it short, 2 weeks ago, we finished our very first European-wide Inland Port Open Innovation Challenge with the European Federation of Inland Ports. It was interesting because all European inland ports participated, and we had 33 submissions, innovation ideas, and we had a final workshop, 2 days. The Port of Lyon won the session. And they did an energy K where they do hydrogen and electric charging for public, but also for freight transport. And we call it, everything at ThinkPod is a canvas. So we have the business canvas, we have the project canvas, and we have the idea canvas. And we did a project canvas with the Port of Lyon and all the other ports, the European ports. And the result of our 2-day workshop was a blueprint for all European ports, how to implement an energy K at their locations. So learning from Lyon. And in 21, hopefully it will go on. We will see. So just in a nutshell, because the last things I want to mention, these are projects which are also funded by the BMK, our federal ministry, and we are allowed, we have the honor to support them. The first one is MIHU. This is a media hub project. They focus on hub structures in the city of Vienna, how to supply the city of Vienna with cargo and parcels, what is needed, what kind of infrastructure, what kind of cooperation is needed. You can access it via www.mediahub.at. It's very interesting because they did a comprehensive analysis of the city, the needs of the parcel delivery companies, you know them like the Postal Service, the DPD and so on, and how they can develop a hub for, let's say, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 people. The next one is Remi Hub. Remi Hub is also interesting because they focused on the assets of the public transport company at the city of Vienna. So they have a lot of areas, surfaces and infrastructure, and how these areas owned by the city can be used for distribution and consolidation of parcels. So just take a look at remihub.at. This is also the project where we are allowed today to test the scooter. So we do a test drive with their parcels at one of the stations of the public transport. And last but not least, Hubbard's, the white label solution, runs since 1 year. It's really, really, really hard to run such a white label solution. It's always nice in theory, but doing it in practice is pretty hard. But you can take a look at it. And the last one is the Open Innovation Challenge. So this is Think About Vienna. What we always say is emotions move people. We do these projects, but we do not just talk about, we put them into practice. So that's why we say we are the mobility lab of the future, with the future. We realized a lot of innovations. And so thank you for your attention. I hope I'm in time. I hear you want to stop me.
A little bit, yeah.
If you're still interested, take a look at our website. It's also available in English. So thank you for the opportunity. It was a great honor.
Thank you for telling us all of this. It's great to see cities and countries looking to the future, starting to implement smart new solutions. I hope this will inspire people that these things are possible. But next up is a section on questions. So this is a great opportunity to ask our guests some questions. And if some of you already have, thank you very much for that. So we'll get straight to them. Matea, for example, asked, what research are you conducting at the moment and what technologies are you starting to implement in rural areas or sparsely populated areas? I think that's a question for Ms. Bittner-Krautzach.
Yes. So far, we do not have that many projects that address the parcel deliveries to inhabitants or houses in the rural areas, but we do fund a lot of projects on where companies in rural areas are involved. So for example, to supply the pharmacies or to optimize the supply of pharmacies, we had a project where food producers from the rural side bundled their products to bring them to the city. Or there was also one project how food can be, or fresh fruit can be brought from the rural side to the city by using public transport buses. So these kind of projects are already there. But as we have a new orientation towards our new RTI strategy, I think there will be more focus in the future also on rural solutions.
Mm-hmm. I think Mr. Gregor Steklarčič asked a sub-question to this. So how are you encouraging local communities and regions as well as companies to implement the results of your research when it comes to this?
We try to address the cities. We have a memorandum of understanding with the city of Vienna to smart cities, and there we have a working group on mobility. So we talk a lot with them, and we also try to, when we are doing research, technology, innovation, stakeholder process to get new ideas, we also invite people from the cities to participate. and to get their view, because in the end, for the implementation, it's really important to address them from the very beginning. In terms of communities, I think it's harder. We work there with cluster organizations, so to say. And in the future, I think we have to further try to address more also of the communities in rural areas. But with the cities, I think we have already very good cooperation.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to financial corrections for co-financed projects, what happens? Do you have any financial corrections for projects that are not implemented in a certain time frame?
No, it's research, technology, and innovation. So they have to deliver their work plan when they are handing in their project in the open course. And when the panel who is selecting the proposal decides that this is worth to be funded, then the project is funded, except that there are some, I would say, that the partner is deciding to leave the project, then they have to ask us if this is okay. Otherwise, those 2 to 3 years projects are getting finished. And in the end, not all results are getting to the implementation, but some of the results, because in research, technology, innovation funding, you also always have the risk that things turn out to be not economical or technical, could not be implemented in a technical or economic sensible way.
I guess, yeah, that's always something you have to keep in mind with these things. And Mr. Steklarčić also asked, what's the segment of the implemented projects in practice after co-financing has ended?
In Austria, we are obliged to do an interim evaluation of the program because of the volume we invest, and also an ex post evaluation. And the results of this interim evaluation, which has already taken place for Mobility of the Future, this means that it shows that not all results are implemented, but because companies are already involved in the projects, at least they are partly implemented by the projects by the project partners, which are partners in the project. And it also depends on if it makes sense to implement it, of course, because there could also be the outcome that something is not in an economic way implementable.
Yeah, which we actually already mentioned a little bit before. Yeah. I'd like to also just take a moment to again tell all our participants that if they want to ask some questions, they are very welcome to do so in the chat. But next up is a question for Ms. Anderlo as well as Ms. Bittner-Gratzak. So how do you secure an interest in green logistics among politicians? Is the Green Party in Austria's parliament?
I have experience, I think, for 30 years now in the ministry, and logistics is not the most hot topic, I would say, and the not most sexiest topic. And I think this does not depend on the parties who are involved in the government. But what we see with the with our green minister, that there is a clear orientation towards climate neutrality now. And this is reflected in the mobility master plan. It's also reflected in the research, technology, innovation strategy, and also in our new strategy, the RTI strategy on mobility in research, technology, innovation. So I think it's a clear orientation towards climate neutrality, and therefore I think logistics has to be part of, because we know the greenhouse gas emissions coming from logistics. But I know that to get money for logistics measures, you also always have to argue, and because there are topics which are much sexier.
Of course. I mean, it's unfortunate, but true. Yeah. How would you get about to getting your agendas kind of tabled? Can you hear?
Lisa, do you want to add something here, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I fully agree to what Sarah just have said before. We have the politicians, but we also have the administration, and the administration is something which usually exists for a much longer time. And all the support measures I introduced today are already in force for many, many decades. So it's nothing completely new. Mm-hmm. And to your question, how do we get the money? How can we ensure that there is enough budget? We have a lot of internal processes with our ministries of finance, because of course we need them, otherwise we cannot implement any kind of projects. And we also have to notify our programs to the European Commission. So there are always two steps which are not clear if we can make it. But usually, at least from the experience of the last years, we could finally reach the okay and the approval. So I'm confident that we can also reach our aims and goals the next years, especially having the Green Deal on European level, and at least the goal of climate neutrality by 2050 European-wide, and in Austria by 2040. So I think we have a common goal, so we have to commonly invest to reach the goal.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, I would like to thank all of you for participating and delivering such great lectures. If you don't mind, I'll switch back to Slovenian now. Torej, hvala vsem, ki ste postavljali vprašanja. Sledi odmor, 30 minut imate časa, da se malo sprehodite, razmislite, kaj vse bi želeli predebatirati in vprašati tekom diskusije, ki bo sledila po odmoru, ali pa si v tem času privoščite kaj za pod zob. Hvala torej in se vidimo ponovno čez pol ure. Aha, še prej pa bo Mateja v bistvu uradno zaključila, tako da predajam besedo.
Ja, pozdravljeni, hvala za udeležbo in I would like to thank all participants from Austria to very good presentations and a lot of information that will be used also for our ministries in our country, and I hope we see you soon, maybe in Vienna. Vielen Dank. Se vidimo na diskusiji ob 12:30. Hvala.
Me slišite? Dobrodošli nazaj. Super, nekaj se nas je že zbralo, srečnih 13, nekaj zamudnikov bomo še malce počakali. Medtem vam lahko še omenim, da boste po zaključku današnje delavnice na e-naslov prejeli e-pošto z anketo, ki jo prosim izpolnite z vašim mnenjem, se vam lahko le na tak način vsakič ponudimo boljše vsebine. Zdaj malo bomo še počakali, ta čas lahko tisti, ki ste še tu, prižgete svoje kamere in pa mikrofone, saj bo potekala debata, kot obljubljeno. Živijo, no, nekateri se že vklapljate počasi. Malo bomo še počakali, izgleda so nekateri še na pauzi. Ja, nič, mislim, da zaenkrat je to. Še enkrat bi vas prosim pozvala, da prižgete kamere in pa mikrofone. Zdaj večina nas je tu, zato bom pa prosila Matejo, da razloži pravila igre oziroma pravila debate. Tatjana, se pa na tej točki poslavljam. Želim vam uspešno diskusijo in še lep dan naprej.
Ja, pozdravljeni. Kaj smo sliši? Ja, okay. Pozdravljeni. Nekaj malega nas je še ostalo, bomo imeli mogoče bolj takšno intimno, interno debato. Jaz sem želela predvsem danes, oziroma s kolegico Andrejo smo želeli predvsem danes iti skozi vprašanja. Vam bom zdaj želela iti skozi vprašanja, ki se nanašajo na razvoj zelene logistike v Sloveniji, predvsem kje smo danes na tem področju izvajanja ali pa ozelenitve logistike v Sloveniji, kje so težave pri izvajanju ali pa ozelenitvi logistike, kaj so vzroki za neizvajanje ambicioznejših projektov. Vemo, da danes se sicer dosti denarja je predvideno za posodobitev železniške infrastrukture, pa za vlaganje v vozila na alternativna goriva, kaj drugega pa ne. Ne glede na to, da imamo pa v strategijah cel nabor ukrepov napisanih, ki pa se večinoma ne izvajajo, in kje so pač predlogi, da bi prišli mogoče po potih, tako kot gre Avstrija, kot so nam danes predstavili, kaj vse oni počnejo na tem področju, kljub temu, da so povedali za politike, to ni tema številka 1, pa se vseeno zelo dosti ukrepov in zelo dosti denarja vlaga v to področje. Mogoče bi pozvala predstavnike Ministrstva za infrastrukturo, če še kakšen tukaj, predvsem mogoče v prvi vrsti direktorata za kopenski promet, če pa ne, pa pač predstavnika za trajnostno mobilnost, da bi se mogoče vseeno predebatirali o sistemu v Sloveniji. Če ima kdo kaj za povedati. Kaj je kdo tukaj iz direktorata za kopenski promet? Ne. Okay. Gregor?
Jaz sem čakal v bistvu, ker Alojž Habič, ki je še napisan tukaj, je iz direktorata, pa sem čakal, če se bo on odzval, kaj karkoli. Jaz bi se eno vprašanje imel pred sabo, če je možno. A lahko nazaj? Ker se mi zdi okej, da pač pravzaprav tudi o tem še debatiramo, no. Malo po vprašanjih, malo da se usmeritev, ki jo imamo, no. Ok, super, hvala. Zdaj se bi šel kar mogoče malo po vprašanjih, pojem verjetno kot neko mnenje bolj povedal, no. To, kar so danes iz Avstrije slišali, se mi zdelo zelo zanimivo, res realno, pač dva fakta sta se mi zelo tako tesno opisala, pač v spomin šla, no. Eden je to, da pač res ni najbolj prvovrstna tema logistika, no, to je ena. Drugo, ki mi je pa predvsem od Martina bilo zanimivo, kako prilagajajo neko to obdobje, ko želijo uvesti spremembo, ne. Pač da vprašajo nekoga, koliko časa bi potreboval, da se bo to naredili in potem temu prilagodijo, ne. Tako da iz danes na jutri ni nič. To se mi zdi en zelo pomemben pač fakt, no, ki sem jih pač od tega danes odnesel. Drugače pa, kje smo danes, no, mislim, da smo no, je pa realno, tako kot si pač Mateja ti rekla, da se začeli vlagati tudi pač v železnico, predvsem zaradi TNT omrežja, no, regionalne proge so malo večji problem, tako da na tistih regionalnih progah bo to težava, bo še vedno verjetno cestni promet prevladoval. Tako recimo sploh izkušnja iz, bom rekel, te dolenjske proge je taka, da je Revoz včasih imel vse po železnici, zdaj je šlo pa vse nazaj na kamione. Tako da tukaj smo verjetno šli v nasprotno smer kot Avstrijci. Kar se tiče pa težav pri izvajanju projektov zelene logistike, je bila pa tudi mogoče tudi ena zgodba, ki smo jo zdaj doživeli mi na tem drugem projektu, ki ga izvajamo na ravni ministrstva, je pa to, da decision makerji ne vidijo problemov za tem, no. Da pravzaprav pač, da to njim ne predstavlja problem, oziroma ker je to gospodarska dejavnost, jo ne želijo regulirati z nekimi omejitvami, z nekimi strateškimi dokumenti, da bi pač omejitve pravzaprav dajali, no, in da niti ne želijo posegati preveč v to področje. To se mi pač zdi dve stvari, ki se mi zdi tako zelo pomembno, no. Zdaj, predlogi pa verjetno počasi po korakih Avstrije zdaj, ali bojo pač, meni se zdelo tudi zelo zanimivo pravzaprav to način subvencioniranja prehoda iz, bom rekel, tovornega prometa pač po cestah na železnice, kako imajo te subvencije definirane, zelo zanimivo. Pri nas mislim, da se o tem še niti pač ne razmišlja, no. Tako je to mogoče bil en korak. Najprej pač pull faktor, no, če push faktorji ne grejo.
A lahko še jaz nekaj vprašam?
Polona, ne?
Ja, zdaj ne vem, a so Avstrijci še na voljo za kakšno vprašanje?
Ne, niso več na voljo. Če bo karkoli jih lahko povprašamo, no.
V bistvu zdaj to, kar je Grega rekel, ne, problem, da pri nas ne vidijo težave odločevalci, ne, in da je to pač poslovna dejavnost. Spomnila sem se dogodka, ki ga je organizirala Violeta Bulc v Ljubljani pred 4 leti, ta velika mednarodna konferenca, kjer smo imeli tudi eno delavnico na temo upravljanja logistike v mestih. In tam sem slučajno sedela pač v skupini, kjer je bilo kar nekaj predstavnikov mesta Dunaj, ki so razpravljali pač o problematiki upravljanja logistike v mestu. In je bilo zanimivo, pravzaprav, če gledaš z vidika nekega celostnega prometnega načrtovanja, so imeli na ravni mesta in regije zelo dobro urejene večino ukrepov, večino stebrov, recimo celostne prometne strategije, ne. Logistika jim je pa v tistem času, recimo 4-5 let nazaj, precej šepala in tudi sami so rekli, da čisto ne vejo, kako bi se je učinkovito lotili. To podobno sliko smo spremljali v Ljubljani od prvega Civitas projekta, mislim, da leta 2009-2008 ali koliko že nazaj, kjer so se lotili dosti uspešno vseh stebrov celostnega prometnega načrtovanja, razen logistike, ne. In ko smo se pogovarjali s temi ljudmi iz Dunaja, sem rekla, pa kaj je tisti glavni problem, zaradi katerega niste uspešni na tem področju, povsod drugje ste pa že toliko naredili, ne. In je bil njihov odgovor, da ravno zato, ker je tu zadaj poslovni interes in se ne da na nek način zelo učinkovito v to posegati in ne vejo, kako bi šli čez te probleme, a ne. Zdaj vidimo, da se je mesto Dunaj intenzivno lotilo nekaterih stvari, pa ne vem, a so našli rešitev za ta konkreten problem, ali ne, ker se mi zdi, da je to ključna stvar pravzaprav pri upravljanju mestne logistike.
Mogoče bi jaz tukaj dodala, smo z kolegico Andrejo smo bili tudi na občini Dunaj, ne. Ne delajo še vedno nekaj dosti. Imajo sicer strategijo, ampak ne delajo kaj dosti. V Avstriji dosti teh zadev izhaja od zgoraj navzdol. To pomeni, na ministrstvu so zelo aktivni, izvajajo številne ukrepe in potem mesta tukaj pač se mi zdi, da koliko so pač prisiljena v to, oziroma da prihaja do nekih inovacij ali pa nekih raziskav ali pa nekih rezultatov, to, kar dela ministrstvo, da potem to mesta prevzemajo. Imajo pa tam na Dunaju sicer zelo dosti dostav s kolesi, imajo privat firme, ki to počnejo, to pa je prišlo čisto iz potreb na trgu, pa pač z nekimi omejitvami. Imajo tudi recimo na Dunaju zelo zastarel ta odlok o urejanju prometa v mestu. Oni niso zdaj sprejeli nek nov odlok, kjer bi definirali okoljsko cono ali pa neka blazna časovna okna, teda so rekli, da imajo kar precej zastarel ta odlok in niti se mi ni zdelo, da bi takrat, da bi se zdaj kaj resno k temu lotili, ne. Ja.
Ampak kje je pa rešitev zavarovati poslovno skrivnost posameznega dostavljalca in hkrati pač združevati te prevoze?
Mogoče še jaz nekaj samo dodam, ne slišim se. Slišim? Oni v bistvu, tako smo tudi danes poslušali, dosti več direktno z podjetji delajo. In tudi na temo zavarovanja poslovne skrivnosti imajo neke, so razlagali blockchain tehnologije, to je pač razvoj te IT tehnologije, kjer v bistvu kompaktirajo podatke skupaj, da en za drugega sploh ne vejo, ampak na to se mi ne spoznamo, to so pač neki drugi suportni sistemi, ki jih sproti razvijajo, ker ni samo razvoj logistike, tu gre v bistvu za več različnih tem, ki so potem posledica takega razvoja, kot ga imajo v Avstriji. Ker oni se tudi ukvarjajo s tem, na kak način različne dostavljalce dostavljati na eno pick-up točko. Recimo, to je en projekt, ki ga pa prav mesto Dunaj dela. Oni se ukvarjajo z varnostjo, da jim kaj ne eksplodira, ne več s tem, da en drugemu nočejo. V bistvu se hočejo imeti neke neoznačene pick-up točke, zato da si jih ne bojo osvojili posamezni dostavljavci paketov.
Jaz sprašujem zato, ker, kot veste, pripravljamo zakon o celostnem prometnem načrtovanju in upravljanje logistike naj bi bila ena od poglavij oziroma točk pri upravljanju prometa, ne. In se mi zdi, da so to neke rešitve, ki bi morale biti povezane tudi z zakonom, ne, in bi morali zdaj nekako priti do njih, če jih hočemo zdaj zapisati, recimo, ne.
Mi smo recimo v decembru bomo imeli še eno delavnico, ki bo bolj na nivoju upravljanja mestne logistike, tako da bi predstavili primere, ne vem, recimo Oxford, Utrecht, Graz, ne. Mi potem recimo je tam bolj ta tema, kar se tiče ta last mile pa bolj upravljanja mestne logistike, ne. Bi se mogoče še tam bolj najdle te vsebine za zakon. Danes recimo je bilo meni pač zanimivo predvsem to, da se vidi, kaj država kot ministrstvo oziroma pri njih, ne, koliko v bistvu oni vlagajo v to, da se obdrži ta model split, ne, med železnico in cestami. To, kar pri nas nikakor ne uspemo vzdrževati oziroma ohranjati, ne. V bistvu raste pri nas po cestah nenormalno ta tovorni promet, ne, pri železnici pa bistveno manj, medtem ko v Avstriji vzdržujejo ta model split. Raste promet po cesti, ampak tudi po železnici. In oni se res trudijo, ne, da vladajo velika finančna sredstva. Oni tudi subvencionirajo recimo gradnjo industrijskih tirov, gradnjo tovornih terminalov, pri nas tega mi nič ne počnemo. Na Dunaju recimo so tudi rekli, da ščitijo v prostorskem aktu območja, ki bi bila primerna za konsolidacijo. Pri nas se gre v prestrukturiranje teh skladiščnih in proizvodnih območij v stanovanjska območja. To so na Dunaju ugotovili, da je to nesprejemljivo, ker v bistvu njim manjka dejansko takšnih lokacij, kjer bi možno bilo izvajati konsolidacijo, skladiščenje in podobno. Nekaj sem zasledila, da to v strategiji novi piše okrog tega, ne, vseeno v prostorski strategiji, da se predvidijo ta območja in da se tudi ohranjajo tudi lastniško, ne, to v novi strategiji piše, da bi pač lahko, da bi lastnik vseeno bila samo občina ali država, to pomeni, da se ohranjajo zemljišča za te vrstne dejavnosti, ne. Tako da danes pač smo želeli predstaviti predvsem ta nivo države, ne, oziroma sistema državnega, ne toliko te urbane logistike. Tako da upam, da decembra bo malo več na to temo, pa da bi, se mi zdi, da pač za zakon o celostnem prometnem načrtovanju, da bo verjetno bolj pokrival to mestno logistiko, ne toliko to državno infrastrukturo pa prevoz tovora po državi, ne.
Lahko še jaz nekaj dodam. V bistvu druge države, mi da se moramo z Matejo malo izklapljati, da ne odmevamo. Druge države večino ukrepov delajo na podlagi zakona o varstvu okolja, v bistvu teh okoljskih con, pa potem spodbujanja in pa restrikcije prevozov za tovorni promet po svojih infrastrukturi. V bistvu na tak način se tega lotevajo.
Zdaj, kar se tiče zakona, zakon bo naslavljal celostno prometno načrtovanje na vseh ravneh, lokalni, regionalni in državni. Tako da tle ta navezava last mile z nekim vsej regionalnim prometom in državnim je smiselna, ne, tudi če zdaj z zakonodajnega vidika to primer dobre prakse v Avstriji bi to celovito naredili, no, tudi v zakonu ta pristop, ker se last mile je vedno posledica neke kompleksne mreže, ne.
Ja, samo recimo v bistvu infrastruktura, po kateri recimo tranzit poteka itak državna in to je v bistvu stvar strategij, se pa država jih lahko izvaja, se to ne rabi v zakonu pisati. Mislim, to je stvar strategije pa nekega akcijskega načrta, no, ne vem.
Smem jaz eno stvar, morda priti do besede, samo če lahko. Jaz prihajam iz transportnega podjetja, delamo predvsem transport na dolge razdalje, ne last mile delivery. Prej sem bil pa 20 let v akademskih sferah, bom rekel, na fakulteti za strojništvo in sem sodeloval tudi kar nekaj projektih povezanih z transportom, ne. Zdaj, že pri eni predstavitvi, mislim, da eni prvih predstavitev, ki je bila danes, sem opazil, da se vedno govori samo o tonkilometrah, pa kako so tovornjaki prazni, ne. Dejstvo je to, da bi bilo treba gledati tudi kubične metre, kilometre, ne. Se pravi, niso vsi tovori, nekateri tovori so tako voluminozni, da nimajo mase, ne, in tega je zelo dosti. Recimo, če peljete, bom rekel, cel kamion spužve, ne, jasno, ta ne bo zavzela dosti mase. Se pravi, ni edino merilo to, ali so tovornjaki prazni ali polni, samo to, koliko ton ima tovornjak naložen, pa koliko ton kilometrov prevozi, ne. Na nek način je transport tudi v veliki meri samoregulatoren, ne, ker dejansko konkurenca tukaj je izjemno velika, ne, in če vsako podjetje ima zelo dosti praznih kilometrov, se pravi, da vozi tovornjak prazen, ne, ali pa da ni naložen polno, ne, zelo težko zmaga v tem konkurenčnem boju, ne, se pravi, tukaj je neka optimizacija samega transporta že v sami naravi tega biznisa, ne, se pravi, vsakmu je interes, da ima tovornjak čim bolj poln, kolikor se da, ne. Pa tudi dosti mitov, se bom rekel, tukaj prenaša še vedno naprej, ne, nekako ne presešamo, recimo tudi problemi spustov tovornjakov pa tako naprej, ne. Dejstvo je, da bi morali tukaj fokus zdaj iskati na drugo stran, ne. Mislim, da Euro 6 je že kar zadovoljil standard, meritve na terenu dejansko kažejo, da so izpusti zelo ustrezni in da nima smisla zaostrovati neskončno bolj te standarde, zaradi tega, ker že težko zmerimo sploh kaj. Kar nekaj let sem delal tudi na področju meritev izpustov in vem, da smo že nekako na mejah merljivosti, ne. Ampak da bi fokus šel na drugo stran, ne, na tem področju, da bi šel fokus na ta stran iskanja tistih, ki sisteme same, bom rekel, predelujejo in dejansko Euro 6 tovornjaki niso več Euro 6 tovornjaki, ne, se pravi, zelo dosti takih zadev se govori, moramo zaostriti emisijske standarde pa tako naprej, ampak mislim, da ne, moramo iti morda kdaj tudi v drugi smeri dejansko pogledati, kdo jih pa te emisijske standarde, ki so že krši, se pravi, usposobi tehnične preglede, da te tovornjake pogledajo, ne, če so res ustrezni. Stvar je taka, da bo verjetno transport tudi po cestah še kar nekaj časa z nami, ne. Definitivno bo moralo iti kar nekaj tega tudi na železnice, obvezno, drugače mislim, da ne bomo doživeli dejansko prometni šok, ne. Ampak moramo se pa vseeno vprašati, kaj pa v tem času, a bomo še kaj vlagali tudi v cestni transport, se pravi, a bomo tudi tukaj izboljševali stvari ali ne. To se mi zdi izredno pomembno. Recimo, vedno zelo radi govorimo o rešitvah, ki so zelo v prihodnosti. Ne vem, električni tovornjaki, ki bodo vozili na dolge razdalje, ne. Ja, niso zastonj iz Nizozemske v Avstriji na Dunaj pripeljali rož na Dunaj, ne, ker je bil verjetno tovornjak bistveno težji od samih rož, ne. Zato, ker se ve, koliko baterij rabiš za 1000 kilometrov na samem tovornjaku. Možno je, ampak tehnično in ekonomsko to ni smiselno, ne. In zato pogrešam to, vsi pravimo, bo čez nekaj let bo vodik, bo elektrika, bo karkoli, ne. Tistega, kar pa zdaj imamo, kar bi že zdaj dalo neke določene rezultate, pa sploh ne izvajamo, ne. Recimo, v tem trenutku je možnost, plinske tehnologije so na voljo, pogon tovornjakov na metan je možen, ne. In če uporabimo biometan, smo tukaj celo skoraj brezogljični, ne. Ali pa recimo metan iz obnovljive elektrike, ki se ga da tudi proizvesti, ne. Pa cela infrastruktura je bolj kot ne že postavljena. Ampak ves čas dejansko samo govorimo, ne, da bi pa sprejeli neke ukrepe, ki bi to spodbujali, uporabo tega, kar že zdaj imamo, kar je na voljo, tega pa žal ni, no. To sem hotel reči, da vedno imamo neke polne usta in smo zelo glasni pri tem, kaj bo, kako bo čez 20 let, ne. V tem trenutku pa praktično konkretno, da bi v tem trenutku izboljšali izpuste CO2, se pravi jih znižali, pa tako naprej pa počnemo izredno malo. Teh suportov je zelo malo. Predvsem v transportu, bom rekel, na dolga razdalja, ne. Toliko morda z moje strani.
Ja, če še, kot je bilo povedano, teža vozil na električni pogon, najbolj vemo, električna vozila tudi nek specifični zvok oddajajo, pravijo, da so celo na višjih hitrostih bolj hrupna. Vse to smo hoteli v bistvu povedati, ne. V Avstriji se zelo dosti daje v subvencioniranje, ne, v finančne spodbude za prevoz tovora po železnici, za gradnjo industrijskih tirov. Tako da verjetno da je tu v bistvu pomembno, ne, da se predvsem začne vlagati pač poleg gradnje infrastrukture, ne, železnice normalno, da se vlaga tudi v spodbude za prevoz po železnici, pa pač z drugačnimi vozili. Ne vem pa, zakaj se to ne izvaja, no, oziroma želeli smo dobiti koga iz direktorata za kopenski promet, da bi mogoče pojasnil te stvari, kdaj se bojo začeli recimo bolj intenzivno spodbudati ali pa subvencionirati tovrstni prevozi oziroma prevozi na takšen način. Če bi še kdo imel kaj za dodati?
Jaz lahko samo še nekaj. Koliko se jaz spomnim, je bilo tudi v tvoji začetni prezentaciji, Mateja, da ekosklad oziroma pač iz podnebnega sklada je namenjenih kar precej pravzaprav virov ravno o tem, kar je gospod Rodman govoril, a ne, če se jaz spomnim, pač da bi šli za temi vozili, ki zdaj so tudi bolj na čiste pač pogone, vi ste pač biometan pravzaprav izpostavili oziroma metan, da je za to bilo namenjeno. Vem, da je bila tudi neka zgodba z našega ministrstva pač glede menjav pnevmatik, da so potem pač tudi manjši upor, manjši pač hrup se proizvaja in vse to, vendar je bilo pač na ekoskladu oziroma kjer govorimo to mogoče spet malo težava pri strukturi, ne, če gledamo Avstrijci imajo najprej klimašuc, pa potem je še, ne vem, še 5 drugih področij imajo in eno teh je pač tudi mobiliteta, ne, pa transport. Tako da vem, da je bila takrat težava tudi nekaj na medministrski ravni, glede pač določene pogoje, da bi taki razpisi šli preko ekosklada čez, ne. To pomeni, da sta dve različna resorja, ki se ukvarjata z tem področjem in že tukaj pride malo do navzkrižja, se mi zdi, no. Tako da, ker predviden je, nekaj razpis je bil, vendar na koncu mislim, da ga ni bil izveden, ne. kolikor je meni poznano. No.
Ja, tako je. Ekosklad je rekel, da se pač s tem ne bo ukvarjal, ne? In je načeloma to prenesel na ministrstvo. Ministrstvo v prejšnji sestavi vlade zadevo pripeljalo precej do konca, seveda z novo vlado se je začelo vse znova, ne? In ko bo naslednja, se bo spet začelo vse znova. Tukaj ni nobene kontinuitete in to je en hud problem, ne? In dejansko, recimo, čist primer, ne? Trenutno v Nemčiji za plinske tovornjake ni cestnin na nemških avtocestah, ne? Z neko spodbudo, da bi tudi slovenski prevozniki kupili take tovornjake, bi jim omogočili, da bi ogromno pošparali pa postali recimo bolj konkurenčni, ne? Pa dejansko še obenem naredili tudi nekaj za okolje, izpusti CO2 so nedvomno nižji, tudi izpusti ostalih onesnažil so nižji, ne? Ampak ne, mi čakamo, ko bo prišlo konec leta 2023, do tega roka pač je ta ukrep sprejet, ne, bomo pač ugotovili, da nismo znali tega denarja v Nemčiji pobrati, ne, in to je zelo žalostno, ne. Se pravi, z nekimi spodbudami spodbuditi slovenska podjetja, da kupijo, bom rekel, zelene tovornjake, ne, in jih potem uporabljajo, pri tem profitirajo oni v biznis modelu in profitirajo tudi okolje, ne, kar je win-win situacija, ne. Pa žal kontinuitete na ministrstvu ni, ko se zamenja vlada, se treba začeti se pogovarjati znova, ne? In to je velik problem, ne pri nas.
Lahko še jaz ponovno, še malo, ne. Avstrijski primer pravzaprav je bil zelo na to, da pravzaprav grejo iz cest na železnice. Mislim, da so to predvsem to spodbujali. Jaz razumem, da zelo kratkoročen ukrep je lahko zelo hiter subvencije v pač spremenjene alternativne, pač bom rekel, pogonska goriva, ki so bolj čista. To je zelo hiter, ampak na končni fazi se moramo zavedati, da eksterni stroški iz pač prometa, ki so iz tovornega prometa, se na koncu rezultirajo tudi v pač pretočnosti, bom rekel, naših cest in težavo imamo že z število voznih pasov na avtocestah in z tega potem pride pač do novih investicij in te investicije pravzaprav so tudi, bi se morale upoštevati v eksternih stroških pač iz prometa, no, tako da več vagonov na vlaku je še vedno, bom rekel, okoljsko bolj sprejemljiv ukrep kot pravzaprav več čistih tovornjakov, ker na koncu imaš še vedno potem investicijo pač v širitev ceste potrebno, no. To je pač ena stvar debate, jaz sicer nisem glih najbolj pristojen za to, ampak to je zgolj kot ugotovitev, ne. Za tovornjake ne moramo rešiti vsega, no.
S tem se moram strinjati, to sploh ni debate. V prihodnosti bo zadeva morala iti na železnice, ne, ampak dejstvo je, da od danes na jutri ne moremo spraviti recimo 30% tovornega prometa tovornjakov na vlak, ne. Nimamo kapacitet. In teh kapacitet verjetno še tudi 10 let ne bomo imeli, ne. Proga recimo dol iz Kopra proti Ljubljani je bolj kot ne polno zasedena glede tovornega prometa. Dosti večji pretovor ni možen na tej progi, ne. Se pravi, treba si je priznati, da bomo po cestah še vozili, ali to želimo ali ne, ne. Zato, ker nimamo v tem trenutku kapacitete. Zdaj pa, ali bomo začeli v tem trenutku voziti z bolj čistimi tovornjaki, ali bomo pa čakali pa še zmeraj, bom rekel, z malo bolj umazanimi vozili še naslednjih 5 let, ne. To je pa tudi malo dilema, ne. Jaz mislim pa, da dejansko je skoraj nemogoče pretovor v zelo kratkem času na železnici zelo povečati, ne. To, ker imamo infrastrukturo res v zelo slabem stanju, ne.
Ja, pa nekaj časa še bo trajalo, ne, da bomo jo spravili na ustrezno zmogljivost, ne.
A bomo do takrat vozili s čistimi tovornjaki ali z umazanimi, ne. To je pa tudi po mojem kar pomembno, ne.
Ja, verjetno je to sigurno ukrep, ki je v bolj kratkoročnem obdobju ga možno izvesti, ne. Ja.
To je kratkoročen ukrep, to ni nek dolgoročen, ne.
Mislim, zdaj smo prišli do tega, da smo ugotovili, da se strinjamo vsi med seboj. Pač to,
ja,
to
to je vedno tako, ja.
Ne, tukaj se vsi strinjamo. Pač, zdaj, jaz bi samo, zdaj se pač malo reflektiram to zadevo, no, za strani Avstrijcev, ki je predstavljeno in ki je bilo tudi pač že Matejo v uvodnem govoru pač tvojem zdaj povedano. Avstrijci zelo veliko že v fazi priprave strateških dokumentov delajo z izvajalci, bom rekel, pač logističnih storitev, oziroma to sem pač je bil tudi nek poanta, ne. Pri nas se mi zdi, da ste vi, gospod, edini, ki ste pač na tej delavnici iz realnega sektorja, ki pač pravzaprav tukaj to izvaja in verjetno bo potrebno v naslednjih delavnicah poskušati dobiti še pač večjo udeležbo s strani, rekel, pač podjetij, ki se ukvarjajo z logistiko. Zdaj, vi ste pač rekli na daljše razdalje, če bomo imeli mestno logistiko, predvsem ciljati na pač tiste, ki last mile delivery imajo, tako da je pa ne vem, verjetno je to kar težko, da se realni sektor udeležuje takih razprav, no? Zdaj, ne vem, kakšna je izkušnja.
Ja, ne vem, jaz sem si malo pred to delavnico pogledal, kdo so partnerji v Care for Climate projektu, ne. Dejansko tukaj noter sem pogrešal tudi nekaj realnega sektorja, ne. Dejansko realnih izkušenj. Ker recimo, zdaj bi lahko se zvedelo marsikaj zelo uporabnega tudi od, bom rekel, čisto navadnih transportnih podjetij. Pa da me prav razumete, jaz sem 20 let delal na fakulteti za strojništvo, zdaj sem dobro leto v gospodarstvu, ne. Se pravi, sem prej bil zelo na tej strani inštitucij, bom rekel, ne, in sem s te strani pristopil k vsem zadevam, ne. Ampak gotovo tukaj zelo manjka neki primeri dobre prakse, ne, in tudi dejansko vprašati podjetja, kaj so dejansko problemi za njih. Seveda, podjetja bodo vedno malo vlekla zadeve na svoje strani, ne, ampak kljub temu, ne, mislim, da je dobro, da se tudi njih kdaj kaj vpraša, ker marsikakšna izkušnja sem jo v zadnjem letu spoznal, ki je prej sploh nisem vedel, da obstajajo zadeve, ne. Recimo ravno to, v vseh projektih do zdaj smo vedno govorili o ton kilometrih, ne. Pa ni to edino merilo, kot sem prej rekel, ne. Kubičen meter, kilometer je pomemben, ne, ker nekateri tovori nimajo mase skoraj nič, imajo pa dosti volumna, ne.
Ja, to so te statistike, ne, vedno tonaža in tonski kilometri, ne, se nekako vodijo, no, ali pa študirajo, ne.
Te statistike prikazujejo, bom rekel, lažno prazne tovornjake, ki pa niso prazni, ne. Tovornjak seveda nima 24 ton, koliko lahko sprejme mase, ima pa zapolnjenih recimo 120 kubičnih metrov, kar je maksimalno, koliko lahko sploh naloži, ne. Dejansko tukaj je tudi problem, ne. Mora toliko z moje strani, no.
Ja, hvala. Če bi še kdo imel kaj za dodati, če ne, kot sem rekla, v začetku decembra bi imeli še eno delavnico preko spleta, fokusirano bolj pač na lokalni oziroma regijski nivo, pa bomo vabili takrat tudi širše, no, mogoče bi bilo smiselno povabiti dobavitelje, dostavljalce, predstavnike občin, mogoče ministrstvo še tudi. Tako, ja.
Jaz bi še samo dodala, da so danes bili vabljeni pač vsi predstavniki ministrstev, pa da vabilo je dobila tudi gospodarska zbornica in pa obrtna zbornica. Zdaj, kdo se je pa udeležil, pa mi smo probali pač neki širši... Slovenske železnice smo vabili, DARS smo vabili, vse univerze v Sloveniji smo vabili, udeležba pa je pač, kako bi rekli, spala knjiga na koliko 8 slova. Mislim, žal nekega nismo dovolj seksi, očitno. Hvala.
To je hvala za udeležbo, pa upam, da se spet kmalu vidimo, pa srečno.
Ja, hvala.
Ja, pa zdravi. Ja, nasvidenje.
Nasvidenje.